Hello, guys and girls, and welcome to episode 170 of the F.Reality Podcast. I'm back hosting the show, so sit back with a cuppa and relax as we discuss this week's top VR news. We're going to be talking about Oculus quietly dropping the price on the Oculus Rift S. We give you our reviews of Medal of Honor Above and Beyond on the PC and Myst on the Oculus Quest. We talk about the FTC suing Facebook and issues with Oculus and the German government. And to round up the show, Zim has got some awesome new releases for you to look forward to next week. But for now, let me introduce you to the team and find out what's been their highlight of the week this week. And also let us know what you played in the chat so we can read out some of your highlights too. First up, this guy is the original rock star of VR, a real rolling stone. It's my Frisian friend. It's, of course, Nathie. How you doing, dude? You all right?
Yes, I am all right. I indeed am an old rock star now. It's been a while. But yeah, the reason why you are referring to the Stones is because I went to an exhibition about the Rolling Stones. Honestly, I never thought I would be going to a museum at the end of the year. It was a birthday surprise. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. It was super exotic, actually, to be going to a museum. And this exhibition was about the Rolling Stones, about their whole career. It's crazy, man. These guys have been rocking around since, what is it, like 63, 64?
Mm-hmm.
Bro, that's crazy.
And they're still kicking ass today.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. But it was super interesting. They had their first guitars, and they also made a replica of their room, their apartment they were living in. It's like a complete mess, man. Like cigarettes laying around everywhere, and food, everywhere. Also, panties laying around everywhere. So yeah, rock and roll, right?
True rock stars. Yeah.
yeah, and some outfits, of course, some costumes. Yeah, super cool. I did feel like I was one of the youngest folks in the room. There were a lot of old people, but yeah, it was great. It was great. I really had fun time.
Oh, so this was in real life then? This wasn't VR
yeah,
thing?
No, not in VR. No, real. And they did give you like masks that were actually in the Rolling Stones like theme, so it matched the museum, so you could blend in. Yeah. Oh, it's great. No, it's really nice that you can go to a museum, and you could just see everyone was just going there also to kind of do something else. Even if you weren't a fan of the Stones, people were like, "Fuck it,
just get out of the house."
Let's go out, you know. So yeah, no, great time. And sorry?
Have you been playing much VR?
No. Like Medal of Honor, Honor Above and Beyond, of course. We're gonna talk about that later.
Yeah.
I haven't really been playing Population 1 because of the fact that Medal of Honor came out.
Sure.
I was just completely standby on that. But no, not really.
Okay.
Yeah, there hasn't also been that much coming out on the Quest or PC
Myst,
so,
which we're going to be talking about later as well, but
Myst,
I don't know if that's really your jam or not, though.
No, like that's the thing. That's what I also said last week. Like a lot of people are super hyped about Myst, but it is something from an older generation because I didn't grow up with Myst. Like this is actually the first time I get introduced to Myst.
Yeah.
So.
Plus, it's like a puzzle game, like a quite hardcore puzzle game by all accounts as well. So I'm not sure if that's kind of your jam either. Whereas kind of me and Zim's kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you missed it the first time around, okay, I'll save the puns for later.
You missed it.
Oh, so by the way, let us know in the chat what your favorite rock band is. I would love to know.
Favorite rock band? What, like the Beatles count?
Whatever you consider rock.
Okay. So next up, this guy is always reliable in a pinch. A lovable rogue who will happily throw you a banana if you're in need. It's the one and only Rowdy VR. Thank you for hosting the last couple of weeks, dude. I really appreciate it. It's been nice. It was nice to kick back and just relax, actually. But back in the hot seat again. So how are you enjoying retirement now?
my pleasure. I really didn't mind doing it. It was actually a nice change of things, I think, as well, especially for me. To be hosting once in a while as well. So that's been great. And this week I've been, it's coming close to Christmas, so all the deadlines are pretty much rounding up. So it's been, I think it's a busy period just for everyone. But I did manage to play some VR. So I played some Medal of Honor, like Nate said, we're going to talk about that a bit later. But I also managed to try out Contractors. So they have like a new update out. So I played that last week together with Chris and Viper. We went in there. So I played the PC version on virtual desktop, and it went terrible. It was I don't know what happened to the game, but it just didn't run smoothly. Like I'm used to playing Contractors as a very smooth experience. I rarely have any problems. I didn't get above 60 frames per second, even on the lowest graphical settings. I don't know why, and I first thought maybe it's because I'm using virtual desktop, but both Chris and Viper were having the same kind of issues. Trying it out. So I don't really know if that was just like bad luck with servers or like, you know.
Do you think that's related to the tie-back, Rowdy? Contractors tying between obviously now the Quest build and the PC build. I mean,
that's what I thought.
Onward unified, right? So I wonder if
that's what I thought as well. Like since it's pretty much a new build that you're playing on, that there's maybe something that is still a problem in there. Of course, I can't speak for the developers, but we didn't have a great experience in the game whatsoever. It's still, I still like Contractors. It's still one of my favorite go-to shooters, but the experience I had last time was just not good enough. I don't know if anyone has already tried it on the Quest. I haven't.
Yeah. That's why I was mentioning it's actually quite solid on the Quest.
Good.
I love it.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well. So that people have been really having a good time playing on the Quest, but. Yeah. I don't know if that is maybe affecting like the PC version of it now, but that's
what happened with Onward, right? Like
that was a development choice, right? They said, and that's from a development point. They're basically like, we have to unify. We can't fork our builds.
Yeah,
and you can understand why they did it. It was just weird that they didn't say they were going to do it up front. I felt like the messaging there could have been handled better. And if that's the case here, one of two things has happened. Either they tried to avoid that and they are still forked, and there's something in the netcode that's pulling the PC build down, and they've allowed that, or it's happened that the PC build has sacrificed, because the Quest build has run smooth as balls. It's great.
Another possibility is, of course, that I was just unlucky when I went on, and there were like some server issues that were causing problems. You know, that can happen. I'm not going to discredit the game just based on my one experience since the update.
Yeah,
it's just that it was striking the difference. Since the last time I played it, that was before the update, and this time it was just a different experience. And I still had fun in the game, but I had, for example, in some custom maps that worked great for Chris or went great for Viper, it didn't work for me. It was always one of us or two of us that had a problem with a certain map, and we couldn't really pinpoint what it was. We were trying to like play around with the graphical settings, trying to increase frame rates, but it just didn't work.
The Quest version, like for me, it was the first time I played Contractors, was on the Quest, and Zim said last week that it was a bit like CS:GO. It does kind of play like CS:GO for sure, but on the Quest, like the frame rates were fine. Also, the gameplay worked just like it should, but the visuals, the graphics are it's like playing Roblox. Or something, but besides that, I did have fun. There was also this, what was it, Mike? Like this bot thing. What is it? Mission?
Yeah, we played some of the co-op, and then we went online. And for some reason, my mic didn't work throughout pretty much the whole experience, so we couldn't talk to each other through some of it. And then, but yeah, playing co-op, there was like enemies, like there were like these little bosses that would like run up towards you and like pop a few shots off, and then as soon as you were getting the drop on them, they would like run away, which was kind of strange AI. But yeah, like the textures on like mountains and some of the vehicles in like the city environment looked really, really rough. So hopefully a bit like Onward, it'll improve.
I did have the impression that there were some changes on the PC version as well, since it did seem a lot brighter than it was before. Which I didn't really like that much because it was a bit oversaturated, I think. But yeah, it's very fresh after that new update, so they still have a lot of time to fix it, and I'm sure they will. I just hope that, my next time that I go in there, to have just a slightly better experience. That's all.
Yeah, hopefully, a lot more developers, and we're going to touch on this later on when we talk about Medal of Honor as well, but they kind of take a page out of what Big Box are doing with Population 1 and start doing, regular events and, stuff to keep the game fresh and people coming back for more, and certainly games like Contractors and Onward could certainly learn a lesson there, I think.
Those co-op modes are weird, though. How did you find them? Because like the AI and stuff.
I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah, it feels very like incredibly tacked on and wave. I mean, it's great. It is a feature to kind of feel less empty if you buy the game and you're just playing with yourself and you feel like you're getting owned online. I suppose it's good then, but it still feels rough.
No,
Yeah.
You notice that? You can jump now.
What's that?
I didn't notice that.
You can jump.
Yeah, you can
now.
You
jump.
can jump in the game.
You can now
It's
jump.
really nice.
Yeah.
It's really nice. I like it when
'Cause
you can actually
you
jump.
know that basketball ring that they have? So
Yeah, the basketball.
You can slam dunk it. Oh,
Oh,
nice.
that's cool. That's cool.
But yeah, like I found like the enemies to be like bullet sponges, whereas in Onward it felt a bit more realistic, like a couple of shots and they're down sort of thing. Whereas this was just like too much, I think, in my opinion.
The maps of that game are freaking huge. It's insane. And also when you play it, that's what I noticed is like when you play it for the first time, you have no idea where the map ends. So you just walk, and it's like, oh wait, I can't go here, and then you need to go back.
It gives you a warning.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
that
gives
you've
you a
reached the
warning.
limit of the map.
Because
In the
Yeah,
co-op
that is-
one, right?
that is
This is
also-
what you're
No,
talking
no,
about.
No, that was in the multiplayer as well.
There was like
Because-
this
and
city where you. could
The
just go
problem is
everywhere.
that they don't mark where the map ends, so all of a sudden you get a warning, and then it's
That's it.
5 seconds. And if
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
not within those 5 seconds back into wherever the map started, and you're dead.
Yeah, that's
so-
weird.
so-
Quite frequently, since you don't see it, where the
true.
ending is. They should really
No.
fix that because
Yeah, you
a lot
don't
of
have a
people
map or
are complaining
anything,
about
yeah.
that.
But there you go. You got a little short review of like our thoughts on contractors there. Didn't mean to go off on a tangent there, but yeah, appreciate the discussion anyway, Rowdy. So let me introduce Zim. Next up, this guy is going to be studied by Sigourney Weaver in her follow-up to the movie Gorillas in the Mist, as it's going to be called VR Streamer in the Mist. It's Zim Top 5. How you doing?
I'm in a gorilla. I'm having an ape of a time, Mike. An ape of a time.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. It's been a good
Classic
week.
80s movie.
Played a lot of stuff. Thank you for the warning about Project Wingman. Played that. I'll only very briefly mention it. That stay away from it. The VR's tacked on. Not good. Heartbroken actually at that. That was kind of sad.
Yeah, I was gutted about that as well.
Yeah,
it
'cause
had
looked-
promise.
It had so much promise for like ages, and anyway, that's what that is. I wanted to bring something else. I like Dad's hand is healing, so that's a quick update for anyone who cared.
Good to hear.
Healing so much, he's buying a HOTAS and getting into Microsoft Flight Simulator. But
Oh my god, you've opened like Pandora's box
it's
there, dude.
going fucking crazy now. So the thing I wanted to say was very much about Quest. Like, I've been thinking a lot about the Quest, and it's like, okay, how is this device? Because I like it so much, it's now become a single point of failure for me. It's like you're gonna break at some point. Like this thing is something's gonna go. So I was thinking like, okay, well, what's gonna go first? And like the old village tricycle metaphor, I think the port is going to go first. I think the USB port is at risk. So what I did was I bought like 6 different of these devices that you could use to, like different adapters, right angle brackets and stuff. And I wanted to show you guys one. It's not cheap, £20, but it's basically a charger that's used for like the MacBook, like MacBook Air and stuff. Like if you don't have the Apple default charger, it's something like this. I'll show it to you for those who are in front of the camera. So it's basically an elongated like metal connector and essentially a male part that goes into the device. And it's really sleek. The nice thing is that it fits into the carrying case. It doesn't bump off or anything, and you can even charge it live while it's there. And it means that you can, while you're playing with Link and stuff like that, because it supports charging through Link, you're just able to kind of like connect it to the end of a cable, route it through the headset, and it just gives me such peace of mind to be able to like just whip that on or off so easily, and especially if I'm doing things with it, it's just a really sleek little solution, and you can just pop it right off and on again. And it
It's
holds.
a magnetic mount.
It's quite a strong magnet. Yeah, it's a magnetic mount. I mean, it's not strong enough that I'd be worried about it doing something through the side of the
And it supports
case.
Link, you said?
It supports Link. Yeah, so like if I go through my official Oculus Link cable to a USB 3 port on my machine, I'll get 2.2 gigabits per second. With this thing in, I get 2.1 consistently, tested over multiple days.
Okay, cool.
So you take a very small hit on the data rate. Works great with Link and stuff like that. I've tested it. You just have to take all those cables, the right angle side, you put towards your PC now, and you put the straight end towards this thing.
Ah, right. I was going to say, because that's going to cause a problem, but that's a really good solution there.
Yeah, and it works well.
Cool.
So that's the
Are
ElectJet.
you all right to share the link in the live stream or like the video or something?
Yeah, I'll pull it up for maybe the end of the show, or at some point I'll drop it in.
Link.
Nice. I see what you did there.
You also find, I wish there would also be a solution for the battery strap one, because if you want to use a link cable or whatever,
you have to disconnect the battery strap.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what I didn't like about it. That's actually one of the reasons I canceled it. Actually, I do have the link to that in a simple place. It's at gear.zimtalk5.com. The link is available. So I put all my stuff there because it's just easier than putting stuff in video descriptions. Gear.zimtalk5.com.
Not Jim, right? Zim, yeah.
Not Jim. Please don't put Jim Talk. If someone owns Jim Talk 5, contact me, okay? We'll talk. That's my highlight of the week. This funny little box. I don't know.
People are like complaining soon, like, it doesn't work, the link doesn't work, it says Jim, but what?
Nice recommendation though. I'm going to pick one of those up. It looks pretty smart.
Well, actually, you and Remarcus both converted me with the Go, if you remember.
Yeah.
There were these little adapters you could get for the Go. And as I said, I tried a whole bunch of different ones, other ones that weren't as expensive, like one that was half the price. It's not enough of a connection, They're like that little bit cheap. This is the one that I would go for.
I think the reason why I didn't mind using them on the go was that because you're always like sitting down or stationary, whereas with the Quest you're moving around so much. So that's why I never really experimented with magnetic mounts. But that one looks quite robust, especially the way it's designed. So pushing the cable backwards doesn't look like it would fall out anytime soon. So
no, it's pretty.
It's
pretty nice. Yeah, so that's why I like it. And if you have I didn't mention this just for the listeners. If you have the Elite strap or something similar, you route the cable along the length of the head strap, then it prevents it from kind of tugging it at all, and you can just be totally confident.
Some people are also using the same magnetic thingies for their Valve Index controllers and also Vive controllers for stands, where you click them into a stand.
Slot them into place.
Like the same.
Those are so handy. Yeah, I like the magnetic thing. I really do. It's really been a lifesaver in so many situations. Just makes getting out of the Quest so much easier. If I'm really cabled up, which I tend to be, things just come off and on so much easier. So there you go.
Nice. Solid recommendation. So before we get into what I played or my highlight this week, maybe we should find out what the chat's been up to.
Yes. So we have Oni Case, who has been playing Myst, Population 1, and a few minutes of Cyberpunk with Farpax. It's funny how Farpax is getting super relevant with Cyberpunk. It's like it seems like it's spreading around, and according to PD, it's working very well. So
they had like an official patch or something come out. I heard from PD. So
they might have a profile. Yeah. They usually have that with every game. But the moment you really start, modding the game in terms of field of view and stuff, you can really get some interesting things. And then maybe in the future, just like with BioShock and some others, you get like actual positional tracking too with Farpax. It just injects itself in there. So maybe with Cyberpunk that would be possible, but then you need a beefy PC to make that happen. Then we have Zach, who is also has been playing Cyberpunk and the Onward. Everyone seems to be combining a VR game with Cyberpunk. And then we have Steve, who played Morrowind, the VR mod, and now he's also modding Skyrim VR. He says, "Help me."
You're deep down that rabbit hole, dude.
I think you get extra points if you listen to one show and you come back the next show saying like you've taken the homework away. I think you get extra F.Reality points. Yeah, so nice. F you, Steve, you get F points. There you go.
F you, as if that's a good thing. Yeah, amazing.
Limitless Gaming has been playing the most gangster horror title ever called Dreadhalla. Do you know that game, Zim?
$3? What?
No, Dreadhalla.
Oh,
like
Dread
he said
Halls.
Dread Halls, but he misspelled, so it's Dreadhalla.
Dreadhalla to my boys.
Yeah, true.
The Nordic version of it.
Yeah. And then we have Ben, who has been playing Blast On, Population 1, and the new Super Hot Boxing Day update. The heck?
Boxing Day update. Boxing Day isn't until the 26th of December, right?
Yeah.
Super hot.
I saw that they added like a score system. I saw Callum tweeting out that, but I didn't know there was another one. Maybe this is the same
public?
thing.
Yeah.
I think it's public. They just added a score system, so basically you can have like a leaderboard. Basically, I think compare scores with your friends. Yeah.
Maybe Boxing Day is different in different places. Okay, all right.
Yeah. And then last but not least, we have Watto UK, who has been playing Assetto Corsa with the Gym. And he has been also diving into Medal of Honor and some Cyberpunk 2077.
Nice. Some awesome games there. So like this week I played a lot of like Medal of Honor. We're going to be talking about that later on. So my other highlight this week though was I've been working with VR Cover for a little while on like a little project, and I've been a fan of VR Cover products for years. And a while ago, like when the Quest 2 launched, they sent over this kind of like blue prototype frame for their VR Cover facial interface kit. And apparently, like, news to me was that I wasn't supposed to talk about it or show it in a video or anything like that. It was just kind of like behind the scenes testing.
Worst kept secret.
I didn't get that memo, so I was just like putting it in all my thumbnails. I was wearing it in every video, and they were like getting bombarded with messages from people saying like, where can we get this blue cover from? Like, why is Mike showing this is not available? Like angry people, and they were like, well, we need to make this into a product now. So they did eventually make it into a product. So I'm thankful that they've actually branded this like the virtual reality Oasis branded VR cover kit now, and it's kind of like this nice Oasis blue. So they've actually released this now. They released it in super limited quantities though. So I think they had like 450 units. They sold out like instantly. I'm talking with them to maybe like release some more, but we're not quite sure what the situation is with that yet. But they also work with Thrill Seeker to release like a Thrill Seeker like pink version that sold out as well. So it's kind of cool that they're working with like content creators to release like branded products, but I'm super happy with it. And like the thing is, like with the prototype that they sent over originally, because it's such a light blue plastic, light would kind of bleed in from the sides, so you would kind of get that, which I didn't necessarily mind, but obviously for a consumer product you couldn't necessarily have that. So they actually came up with a solution and painted the inside of this black, so you don't get that kind of light bleed through with the final version, which is kind of nice. And they've got it with these kind of like white face pads. Yeah, so overall, I think it's a really nice product. I was really happy to sort of like endorse it as like an official virtual reality Oasis branded product. It's the first time I've ever done that with a company before. Yeah. Nathan will know that we get requests to put our name to stuff all the time, and like we generally turn down sort of 99% of these requests. But when it's a product and a company like this that you actually use all the time, I think it was like a real honor to be part of that. So I'm super proud of it. So that was kind of my highlight of the week, really.
Yeah, congrats on that, Mike. I love hearing the guilt trip story. That part is the best. They're like, guess what? You showed it, now it's fucking your color. I don't care what it is. If it was yellow, you'd be Oasis yellow,
Yeah, and it's funny because like it started like with the CV1. Like if you were a follower of the channel way back then, I actually painted my VR cover kit blue because I wanted a blue one, and that's kind of what stemmed these different colors and models and stuff. So it was kind of cool to be a part of that way back then, and now they've actually brought a proper product out, which was really nice.
It's probably fair. So that yours and Thrill Seekers at the moment are both sold out. Both had 450 units available. Something that I'd mentioned, which was a surprise, because in the last 2 months, last month and a half, VR cover have been dropping like, oh, we've got new products. Oh, we've got more new products. Oh, here's actually more. I kind of got annoyed at them because I kind of said, guys, can you tell us what your pipeline is? Because if I buy product A and then you launch product C, like I might have wanted to wait for that. Can you tell us at least what you're dropping? Which they haven't been doing. They just keep dropping newer stuff, which is fine. Just taking the Kickstarter approach, I guess, of surprising you with new stuff. But I got the winter cover, which is the red one. So there's pink, red, and blue in the universe now. Black, of course, from the original frame as well.
Yep.
And the only thing that I was going to mention there is because I use the VR cover that's the cotton cover, these two aren't compatible. So you can't actually take the cotton cover, that denim one I've talked about before, and mount it over this one, which I think is a mirror equivalent of your kit, Mike.
Yeah,
similar thing. So it comes with the two nice pads, and I got to say the build quality, the materials are like super nice. Like they keep upping their game. And I really like the build of it. I just wish it was compatible with those. So maybe if you're listening VR cover, go make a slightly bigger cotton cover to go over this, and then I'll be able to use the whole assembly. But at the moment, those two, they don't marry. And I just wanted to give you guys that update because I spent 20 on that, 30 on that, and it's like, oh, for 50 quid, I can't put them together. That's a bit sad.
Can't put them together.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
It's for science.
Oh, that's cool. So that's us. So let's get into the news. But actually, no, before we get into the news, there is something we need to announce as a show, actually, because we have some good news and some bad news. Starting with the bad news. Next week's episode of will be the last F.Reality podcast of the year, because we're going to be...
Ever. That's it, we're breaking it up.
It will be the last podcast of the year, as we're going to be taking the 26th off, so we can spend some time with friends and family over Christmas and the holiday period. So we hope you understand about that.
Plus,
But-
Mike needs to help Santa because he's an elf, remember?
That's true. The good news is, though, that we're going to be hosting an F.Reality Christmas party in Altspace next Saturday, the 19th of December, after the show. So we did something similar a while ago, where we kind of like had an Altspace event where we, met up with the community and viewers, and we got to hang out and just chat. And I think it would be really nice that we're going to do something like that again and sort of get into the Christmas spirit together in VR. So if you're available next week after the show, I think it's going to be 9 p.m. in the UK, 10 p.m. in Europe, 1 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to be hosting it in Altspace in a club called the Screen Door Effect Club, which I think is like the most awesome name for a VR club ever. Like almost better than the Distracted Globe, I would say. Then feel free to join us if you're available. That'd be really, really cool. We've just posted the link in the chat, so you can add it to your calendar. And we'll announce it again, obviously, next week on the show, and we'll put links on our YouTube community page and like Twitter and everywhere else as well. So that's the bad news and the good news. So we won't be around on the 26th, but we will be hosting a Christmas party next week after the show.
Great.
Look forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
I think it's probably worth mentioning, come along, whether you got a VR headset or not, because Altspace does allow the 2D joiners. So if you're interested, you can come in off a PC without.
That's very true. That's very true. And Altspace is a free app. It's available on Quest. It's available on PC for all VR headsets. So yeah, it's going to be a fun one, I think.
Is there a limit to the room? Do we know that?
We're not sure.
We're gonna break it. We're gonna try and break it.
We're gonna test it.
Sure. Yeah.
In true F.Reality style, we're just gonna test it out live.
Come help us F it up. All right.
Yeah. So that's that. First bit of news this week is about Oculus, as they quietly dropped the price of the Oculus Rift S to $299 or 299 British pounds, saving you $100 or £100, which I think is a pretty good deal. But as we know, the Rift S is being discontinued, so it didn't get much support when it was alive, so I doubt it's going to happen when it's dead. But it is a great price for a headset, and I think, it is still a solid device. Personally, my opinion would be to go for just the Quest 2, but I know Zim has some other ideas. You think, if you're going to solidly use it as a PC VR headset, this is still a great headset to go for, in your opinion, right?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting proposition, right? I mean, they dropped the price by 100 quid, so now the price that you were probably going to pay on eBay or somewhere for a used kit would be now like 50 quid off of buying it new. So with the warranty and everything else that comes with it, you might now want to consider that. I mean, if you think about getting a Quest 2, adding the cost of Link, adding the cost of other accessories.
To make it comfortable, because we've got to stress that the Rift S is probably a more comfortable headset out of the box.
Out of the box, yeah. And the audio solution is similar, right? It still is the Rift S is still a beautiful headset for games like your recent Asgard's Wrath. That's now available for 20 quid. So Rift S is like, it's a really nice looking display, and although it's maybe limited time, for 300 quid, it might be the way to go. That said, if you're willing to spend 400 or 500, I think the Quest 2 route is probably the better way to go. And now that we've been hearing about longer term developments of massive games like Medal of Honor maybe coming to Quest, I'd actually say that you might want to start thinking about going for the $400 Quest 2. In other words, the larger capacity, the 256 gigabyte capacity, because we're seeing more and more, I'll call them adventurous games, targeting Quest 2, which means 64 gig might not be enough for you by the time next Christmas rolls around. So if you're strictly a desktop person, Rift S is pretty decent. Consider the benefits of buying straight from a company instead of the risks of going to the pirate bays of eBay. And if you really want to go all in, Quest 2 still tops it all.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think you wouldn't buy a Rift S for the Oculus platform, the PC platform side, because I don't think Facebook is gonna make any more PC games next year, new ones. There's still Lone Echo coming, but in the end, you can also use Revive and play that with any other PC VR headset.
Yeah.
So yeah, as you said, if you really want to use it for PC VR only, that's good. But if you are considering standalone, then yeah.
I think, like if you were in the market and you were thinking like in your mind, I want a cheap PC VR headset, and maybe you were looking at like Windows mixed reality, I would definitely recommend getting the Rift S over one of those headsets, put it that way. And if, like Nathy said, you just want to play like Half-Life Alyx, you want to play the back catalog from Steam, or maybe use like Viveport, like we've mentioned before, you want to jump in and check out the whole back catalog, then maybe that is a good proposition. But you just need to know going in that support and future updates are going to be limited, whereas the Quest 2 is going to be continued support for like the next year or two.
Yeah. I mean, Quest 2's like link support and stuff is improving, month on month. It was a little iffy to start off with. And I'll be honest, when I sold my Rift S, I was like, am I going to regret this decision? Is something going to break link? And now I'm all in on Quest 2 to some extent. So that's the only reason why I would say that the Rift S is a really nice kind of stable solution for any PC VR player who wants a mid-tier headset, who doesn't have like a super crazy good PC, is definitely not a candidate for the HP Reverb G2 nor the Index. Then it's a good place to get in, to get and you don't need anything extra. You just get the Rift S and you're kind of good to go.
Yeah. Although like I would say, like playing stuff through virtual desktop, like like Medal of Honor through virtual desktop, and like Half-Life Alyx through virtual desktop with Quest 2, it's just so nice. So if you have a decent router in your house that's 5 gigahertz, then I would highly recommend the Quest 2 just for like the wireless capability alone. Again, really,
as Zim said, like it is more expensive for sure. With all the comfort stuff that you need to add and everything you need to upgrade, it's still going to be pricey to be, doing all of that. So Rift S in that sense is like super cheap.
Yeah. But it's clear obviously that they've got like stacks of these somewhere, and they just want to get rid of them all. They're just like, let's get rid of them so we can remove this from our website and pretend that this never happened.
Do we know the D date for it's sometime next year, right, when they start to stop?
Yeah, I think it was Easter time next year was the time that they're going to shutter it.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I think it'll still be usable for time after that, but nothing new will come. Similar to the Go, which has already had its nail in its coffin, which is 2022, I think. Which I'm sad about, but hey, we got to move on.
It's an end of a PC VR era, in a way.
Yeah, and let's get into that then, because that's like obviously the news about the price drop with the Rift S. But decide what you want to do with your own money. But that's just our recommendations. But let's talk about Medal of Honor, because I think we're going to have a lot to talk about with this game. As you probably know, it released on both Steam and Oculus PC platform this week. It's $60 55 British pounds on Steam. It's $60 and 45 pounds on the Oculus Store. So you save yourself 10 quid on the Oculus Store if you're in the UK. Obviously, this game has been one of the most anticipated VR games for a long time. It's one of these big pillar games that we've been looking forward to. It's been in development for like 4 years from like legendary studio Respawn Entertainment. So the hype levels were insanely high for this game. But on release, reviews have been kind of like middle of the road, kind of average. So let's kind of get into it. Maybe we should start off talking about the system specs, because I think that's a barrier to entry before we even start talking about whether the game is good or not. It's like, whether can you actually play this game or not on your machine. So the system requirements or recommended system specs are an i7 and a 9700K processor, 16 gigabytes of memory, an NVIDIA RTX 2080, and over 180 gigabytes of hard drive space, preferably on an SSD. They're the recommended specs. I've seen people email us, like Reese the King emailed us and said, I've been running it on lower specs and it's running okay, but I think it's a bit hit and miss, because I've seen other people saying I've got, those required specs and it's still not running okay for me. So it's kind of like a bit hit and miss. And I think that inconsistency is a theme throughout our whole discussion about this game. But that's pretty much
that is going to plague
specs.
This entire discussion today. My anticipation here is that because I'm on a 1080. I did not expect to be able to run the game, and it's running great for me. And it's like there's people with triple my setup, and it's running like dog shit for them. And it's like, and there is a giant disparity between Steam and Oculus platforms. So let alone the sizable specs. Look at the three major things here that get in the way of a good experience with Medal of Honor. Then there's surprises that we didn't know about. The storage requirement, the price. What was the third one? I had a third one, but I've forgotten it. But
Performance?
Performance, thank you. So between those three, those are all good filter barriers to knock people off. Like, the price is heavy. The performance for some people is totally, like, you can't tell what you're going to get going in. You just have to buy it and then lean on the refund system. I don't know. I can see why people are so frustrated with this right now.
Yeah, and that's before we even get into the fact whether the the game is any good or not, right?
Yeah.
They're just like barriers to entry before we even start.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I should say though, with a high-end PC running this, like with my system running this, it looks beautiful. Like, there are sections of this game that look amazing, like really incredible. And it's moments like that where you look around and you think, yeah, this is AAA VR. But then there's other times where you're just like, how did this ever like get through QA? Like, how did this ever get past like an Oculus overview system, like when they check this game out? Do you know what I mean? It's that inconsistent quality that I think is, like I say, we're going to be talking about a lot during this review.
I'm gonna make because we've done this before. We've talked to ourselves. I know we've each gotten different amounts of time in the game. Just be mindful not to give spoilers of later sections.
Yeah, of course.
Okay? 'Cause I'm
of course.
particularly sensitive to not knowing about sequences that'll come. But talk generically about it.
Yeah.
So before we get into if this game is good or bad or in the middle, something I have been just been focusing on the most is that there was no marketing for this game at all, like zero. It's almost to the point where I had the feeling that Facebook didn't wanted people to know about it, because as you said, the file size, the price, stuff like that came all from Reddit and not from them posting it anywhere. On social media, Facebook / Oculus wasn't saying in 2 days it's coming out, or are you excited because this and that you're going to be able to experience. Zero.
Yeah, well, like you're saying, as a flagship ship, you would expect it to be sung from
a little bit of
corners.
marketing here and there, but there wasn't.
I mean, the trailers well done.
the trailers, exactly. That's what I was going to say, is that they did drop
Best trailers that I've seen for a
Two.
VR game.
of course, but trailers are standard for every. But
Yeah, you
the
have to
week
have it.
upon
That's
it
quality.
coming out, a lot of people didn't know it was coming out. Also, marketing-wise, people still thought it was coming to the Quest.
Yeah.
Well, of course, it's not. It's of course the Link software that does the trick. But that's something that frustrated me because it's Respawn Entertainment who, when Titanfall came out, they did like huge marketing campaigns. You got ads on your browser, you got ads on YouTube, everywhere. You have seen it with Cyberpunk, but with Medal of Honor, nothing.
And I think we should also mention about the Quest, because there's been rumors, and we've talked about it on the show as well, that the game is going to come natively to Quest in the future, and certainly Oculus are keen for that to happen. But seeing how it's optimized on the PC platform, like, it makes me very skeptical about whether this game will ever see the light of day on Quest. And I know other studios have managed it, and I think Skydance are a really good example of that. Like, I never thought we'd play The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners on Quest,
Same.
but they managed to do an amazing job. So, although I'm skeptical, I suppose there are studios that have pulled off the magic before, so maybe it might happen, but who knows. But let's talk about the single-player campaign first, and then maybe get into the multiplayer later. So I've actually finished it. Have any of you guys actually finished the campaign, or are you still sort of like
Almost.
halfway in?
I think
about-
the last
I've
mission.
only started it.
I'm about halfway because I'm starting mission 3 at the minute.
Okay, so overall, there's 6 missions. Each have 9 levels each, and then you have a prologue and a tutorial section at the beginning. Overall, I would say it took me about 8.5 hours to finish the single-player campaign. I was rushing through it, so I would say most people would probably take about 9 to 10 hours, because there's collectible items you can find in maps, and there is a lot of stuff that you can just have a look around and check out the environments. So yeah, 10 hours is probably roughly the average that people will take to play it. I would say it's very slow to start, and I think this also hasn't helped the game with a lot of first looks or early reactions, because I think it takes about 2 hours for this game to start warming up. Would you
Took
guys
me
feel the same?
took me 3 hours to get it ready for my show. So what I mean by that is playing the tutorial, getting all the movement setup stuff done. They actually go through quite a protracted, I liked it, but they go through quite a protracted tutorial segment, and it almost
they
feels
do.
like its own side game. and they call it this prologue. Yeah, it was unexpected, and I totally agree. If you're trying to, decide whether or not to keep the game within that 2-hour refund window on either Oculus or Steam, you're not going to be able to tell in that time. Not fairly.
Yeah,
I'm on the complete opposite side because I absolutely adore the tutorial. Like I literally I think I played it roughly 2 hours yesterday, and I only did the tutorial. I had so much fun in that.
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
Oh no, I was saying I like it. I like it. I like it. I think it's really well done. But the only part of anyway, I don't know how detailed we want to go because we want to go into the various bits, but the tutorial has some frustrating elements, which I wanted to mention, which is it's like, hey, do you want, damage to be displayed this way or that way? We're not going to show you. You just have to figure it out. And then you got to set it. And then you're going to do a thing to make sure you want it that way.
Yeah.
And then you're going to go back and change it back to the other one, try that one. And if you don't like it, you have to go back and set it back. So it's very obtuse in the way that they've developed that. Some of it works really well.
Word. Yeah.
But they're trying to do something really
every bit of it.
really advantageous to the player to make it kind of straightforward. It felt a lot like the beginning of that black and white game with the Frankenstein bolts.
Wilson's Heart.
Wilson's Heart. It felt really like Wilson's Heart in the beginning segments. Yeah.
I just found it hilarious how many Germans you actually have in the base just for you to shoot. Like the only thing they need to do is run around, and then you can shoot them and they die in the most horrific kind of ways. And you have all the weapons laying around there. I had so much fun doing that.
I would say like the first 2 hours of the game, it's like you have to kind of force yourself through that, and then it gets fun. But there is definitely a problem with this game. The pacing seems off, and sometimes the way the story gets told, it's hopping around in strange ways, and it doesn't make sense order-wise. And and that's the hard part of like if you had to ask someone to play through, let's say, bad gameplay for 2 hours, and then finally gets fun. Usually, a game starts off really awesome, then it has some bad moments, and then it bumps up again. But with this one, it's like, it's hard to tell someone, listen, you have to play for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like I kept telling everyone who said like this game is really bad, it's like play the first 2 hours until you reach this mission, and then it starts to feel like an action.
I'm completely on the opposite side. I have I heard everyone complain that the first mission was boring and that it wasn't fun. So maybe my expectations were lowered before I went in. But like up until now, I haven't had a single point that I was like, I don't like this, or I'm roughly, I think I've almost finished now the first mission roughly, I just started the second. I have no idea actually what I am. But everything I'm doing, I find fun. I find the visuals really great looking.
Yeah.
I find the gun mechanics, I have to applaud them for them because like people always say, oh, you can only do onward or you can do arcade. And I think that they found a really great middle ground in between that as well. Since I found the gun mechanics, they're arcadey, but they're not as arcadey as, for example, Population 1. And I think if Population 1 would take some of these mechanics and implement them there, that the game would be better as well.
I love this.
I think there's a lot of things that are really great in this game.
This is amazing. Okay, so I say this is amazing because this is going to be an awesome podcast. And I said at the start, there will be blood, because you guys probably aren't going to guess where I'm standing on this game. I honestly think that Medal of Honor Above and Beyond, at the moment, I'm 8 hours in, 4 hours on single player, 4 hours on multiplayer, is my game of the year, above Saints and Sinners and above Alex, because I think it hits everything that I want from a VR game, all 12 categories of how I've rated games. I've never awarded 12 out of 12. It's the first game that gets that. I am not talking about Steam. I'm talking about the Oculus Home Edition. I'm telling you, it runs great for me. I'm having a hell of a time. And it addresses problems that I had with Alex, that I had with Saints and Sinners, and something else. I can see Mike's jaw is slackened, but I'm telling you, that is where I'm standing right now.
Wait. So can we confirm like what mission you're actually on?
Mission 3. So I've just finished the... God, do I even remember? I've played so much multiplayer now, I don't...
Well, I'm like, honestly, I'm not going to argue with Zim on this, because I think this is... I don't even... it's like, who took over your buddy, Zim? Like,
but yeah, there's other people...
I understand, Zim. I'm far more...
I mean, like...
than what Natey is saying, for example.
If he would say it's a fine game to me, but saying that it's better than Half-Life Alyx, or better
it
than...
It is. It doesn't have those, like...
That's like next level stuff, man. Like, that's really next level.
That's fine.
For me, like I do agree with what Rowdy's saying. Like gunplay wise, I think the gunplay is really solid, and you know, like I said this before as well, before even playing the game, that I was looking forward to putting these like old World War II weapons like through their paces, like being able to like reload like the M1 Garand, for example. Like I've never done that in VR before, so I was looking forward to that, and that really sort of paid off. Although the ping could have been louder in my opinion.
You like that? See that it's funny because you mentioned that last podcast, and I think that's one of the least satisfying weapons because you don't even shove in the thing. You just drop it. You just drop it in.
The M1 Garand is the least satisfying, but I'm just saying as an example, like handling World War II weapons in general is satisfying, and like there's a lever action rifle that you can like spin round to reload, and there's like a double barrel shotgun that you can flick down, slot in the shells, and flick it back up again. And that's really nice.
Because the World War II VR titles are rare. There have been a few, but they were all indie. It's not so bad. Although talking about gameplay, talking about shooting and everything together, the whole package, to me feels a little bit dated. It feels like I'm playing a game from maybe 2016, 2017, and it feels like they have been postponing this game for too long. Because
I think that's more to do with the AI, though, don't you think, rather than the weapons themselves?
I think it's a combination. It's also where you're like you have no holsters, you have no ammunition in certain spots where it makes more sense.
Wait, what do you mean no holsters? Because you got a right holster, you got your chest holster.
So you have if you have a weapon, you have to hold it with two hands. You can't grab something else in the meanwhile or multitask in that sense.
Depends on the weapon you have. Yeah.
No, you can't do that.
You can because there's a one-handed rifle.
Yeah, but you can't grab your pistol with the other and quickly switch around or find something in the map itself, use an object to use that in the meanwhile. You can't do that. You always can have one weapon and you have to hold it with the other hand. The other hand can't do anything else than using that weapon that you're holding.
Alex was like that as well, though. Like you could only use one weapon at a time.
With your other hand, though.
No. You could in Alex you could have like let's say a traffic cone in one hand and have
but you couldn't dual wield is what I'm saying. Yeah,
but that's what Nathan's saying. Nathan's just saying.
I'm not saying like I'm saying dual wield not in that sense, but that you're able to use stuff in the environment, combine it. But that's
exactly.
Expectations.
Hold the gnome in one hand and
no.
gravity gun in the other.
One thing weapon-wise though, I think that totally sucks is the scopes on the sniper rifles. Like,
the funniest, it's so weird. It's so weird. Like, it's actually like I thought that it was blanked out because they weren't rendering it. They are rendering it. If you take the sniper far enough away from you and you tilt it to the side, you see a black disc around. They are specifically masking just that area. You can see the end of the gun. They are specific. Stupid. All they need to do to fix that, this is an easy patch, right? They just need to turn it into a binary trigger. You just say mask on or mask off. On the sniper rifle, and then you have a normal sniper rifle, like what we're accustomed to in so many other games.
It should be like Onward, with like proper scopes. Do you know what I mean? Like you shouldn't just attach
Population 1 as well.
a sight to your face.
Sniper rifle in that game, just because I don't feel it like a sniper rifle. I want to see the full scope, and that's something that I think should change in this game as well, or at least give us the option. But I do like the options that they've placed in this game because you can make it a really immersive experience. The only thing I don't like is that I still get blood over my vision whenever I get hit. I can't turn that off in any way.
But that's what I'm saying. Like the way you say you're using the guns 4 or 5 years ago, that was fine, and people were like, okay, cool, works. And that's why I'm saying it's a dated game.
No, I don't agree with that because it's since the Quest that we've seen that more and more. Since Population 1 did it as well. There's a lot of.
But 4 years ago, the Quest wasn't. You're comparing like this game is really old, so it's not subpar to other stuff we have played recently.
But what's your point? Like, so are you upset that you can't have objects in two hands? Because I think that the gunplay feels like even a more. A step in realistic direction from Pop 1, right? Pop 1's mechanics are really simple, and this one takes it a step towards what we have in like a Pavlov or Contractors or Onward. It's like a halfway house.
Yeah. No, I get it.
So let's
you can't really compare this to Half-Life Alyx.
I'm not comparing. Like I think if we are starting comparing this game to Half-Life Alyx, I think we're having the wrong discussion. I'm not trying to compare it
into the VR scene. You can't really compare these kind of games to the PC market. Just even though it's Respawn Entertainment, the team that has been working on this is not the same team that has been working on the same size of the team as has been working on Titan.
No, but if you look at what Respawn Entertainment has made so far compared to all the other games they made, this is the worst one they have made.
I don't agree with that at all.
Compared to Titanfall, compared to...
I think I like Zim said, I the experience I've had with it so far, like I can't say I haven't finished the game. You know, I haven't even tried the multiplayer, but what I've tried, I've liked a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe so I think we can all agree that like the gunplay to a certain degree is probably the game's strongest point. But you know, I think personally, like from the story and the way the pacing of the game is very, very strange. Like you like the very first mission, for example, you shoot a Nazi and then it's like victory, and then it's like you move on to the next scene, and then it's like there's a cutscene like. There's a character called Ollie. It's like you find out how old he is, and it's like victory, and it's like what is that like? What is up with this victory?
You know what I think? You know what I think that is? I think that it's like, and that's something I don't like. It's a sort of weird kind of comedy that they have, that they've implemented, and some people will like that. Other people will not like that. I'm not someone who likes that, but this is Medal of Honor. You know,
it just feels lazy, to be honest, and like we're not talking about like a 3D like. Section in between missions. We're talking about like a flat rectangle square that is like they've literally put like the minimum amount of effort into like make that.
Though, that is going to remove that already.
Well, good, because it should have been removed in the original in the first place.
What would you do instead, right? Because you need to load between scenes.
Look at Alex, right? In between load scenes, you have this 3D map that you can actually put your head in and out of if you physically wanted to, with different scale, and you literally see your journey from the beginning to like the floating prison. I'm just saying that's the difference. It's 3D and it's like interactive. This is boring and flat rectangle basically with some text on. And I'm saying like the menus and everything else throughout the whole game feel the same way, very dated. And Nathy does make a good point in that this game feels dated, because you've got to remember this game started development in 2016, and I'm sure they're doing the same with Lone Echo in that they've held this game back to release it at a certain moment. I'm sure this game was ready before then.
Yeah. Where if it came out a couple of years ago, people would have been like, wow, this is...
And I think the problem is that the game hasn't benefited from... I think if it had released like 2017, 2018, I think it would have been the best game, like VR game we'd played. And we'd still have our criticisms, of course, but I think we'd have looked at it in a different way. In a game post-Alex and post-Walking Dead, you can't look at it the same way, in my opinion. And I think that's what's changed.
And the pacing side here, I don't agree with, because I think that this is staying true to Medal of Honor's original roots. I mean, have you guys played like Allied Assault? Have you played the original games?
But stick to Medal of Honor, stick to its roots to the detriment of the way the game feels? I don't think so.
I don't consider it a detriment. I really enjoy the fact that it's a fresh, campaign mission every time, and you're changing from piece to piece. Like for me, when I go in there, what I want, and this is the thing that I have to compare it, particularly in the year of 2020. This is an important point. Like Alex came out, in my opinion, in the wrong year. It should not have come out in 2020, because the last thing somebody who's already downtrodden, in this what feels like a realistic dystopian universe wants another dystopian universe to go into. And the same thing is there in Saints and Sinners. You guys know how much I love that game. I'm smitten about it, but it's the wrong mood. Like if you really want a game, and this comes down to what you want in your game, I want a game to give me fun. I want to have fun. And I think this game has a really kind of odd decision, but I back it, in that they've got the kind of fun part of the game, which is the gameplay, and then they've got the gallery missions, which is let's give a reminder to people about these vets, the people who actually went through this and the atrocities of actual World War II, to kind of drag you back to center and say that this is, let's like, as much as you're celebrating in some extent the gameplay here, like, don't go too far. Remember where this was rooted in, and remember where your freedoms came from. So
I don't like what you're saying is like you're fine. Like they have Medal of Honor, like the old games, and they used a lot from that in the VR game. But the thing is, if you start making a VR game, you got to look at what makes it so unique and innovative, and use that and put that in a new game and and take a spin on it. But instead, they use the victory screens, they use the menus that you are all familiar with from the old Medal of Honor games, but they just don't work in VR. Because you need to come up with something new, like Mike said, with loading menus that feel immersive and don't take you out of the experience.
But we have loads of flat menus.
If you talk about the gameplay, like my mind.
Which other games in Half-Life Alyx is doing this? Because I'm thinking of them. I can't.
It takes the momentum out of the game. Like if you look at the way.
I agree with that, but how many other games are doing that?
But the problem is we don't have many VR games. That is the problem here. But like I would say, like so that aside, I think like the characters as well. Like I don't know if you noticed this or you felt the same way, but certainly in the cutscenes where you're just listening to the characters talk, like it feels very wooden to me. And like then there's these really strange facial expressions, and then there's moments where it's just like they're just standing there looking at you with some awkward silence because ultimately in the back of the game is loading in the background, and it's just this weird disconnect between you and the characters.
Oh, I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with
When did that happen? Can you give an example?
Throughout the whole game, dude.
I
find the
Like
characters
in
so weird,
every
but again,
cutscene.
I often feel like I'm like listening to someone's weird version of comedy, or like, you know, like also the jokes they make. You know, it's a very flat kind of comedy, or like, well, I think that it's just not my kind of thing. But at the same time, that doesn't make the game less fun for me. Like the game itself,
See, the comedy for me is a highlight. It's not a detriment at all. I love their characters. The facial animations are like LA Noire. I mean,
but it's like you're enjoying it
battle
because
stars on it.
It's like enjoying a bad movie. You enjoy it because it's so bad, and
It's
that's
not
almost
bad.
what you're saying with this
I don't
game.
think it's bad. I mean, this is the thing.
I'm enjoying the facial expressions because they look terrible. It's like the Vino brothers. You look into their eyes. You're never going. It's like looking at Momo, like in their eyes.
Sorry, who's Momo?
It's just it's awful.
The thing is, like, character development wise, like you have this awesome bunch of characters, and it starts off pretty strong. You have you have one who is, I can't say who they are, but the thing is, you have a lot of characters and they all have their own kind of, but character development wise, it's not like you really start to get attached to any of them. Well, there are maybe 2 or 3 that kind of get some more screen time, but the rest is like, I don't care. They just pop up and they're like your friends straight away. I'm like, I don't even know. And I didn't feel like I was part of the story. I was just standing in there in the cutscenes, but I don't know. I was like, what am I doing here?
That the characters are not the strongest point of the game at all. And for a game that is so expensive, they should do a better job of that.
Well, again,
but I'm
Rowdy,
talking,
that's why, because it's years
old.
Wait.
It's old. But I'm talking about that it's like, it's a total package that I mean. Like, the only question I'm asking myself is, am I having fun with the game? And I am.
Yeah, I'm not.
I have a lot of criticism.
But there was
the story is not great. I agree with that. The comedy, I find it flat. The characters don't have really expressions, and I agree with all of that. But the core gameplay, I still find fun. Should the game be cheaper? I agree with that. I agree that the game should be cheaper for what they're delivering. But I still find it a fun game, and I would still recommend it.
And I do agree with you in some parts that I think sections of this game are fun and sometimes like great. And I think, and there's moments where I think this is really good. But there is like levels where they put you on like a moving platform. I won't say what platforms they are, which are completely out of your control, which is like motion sickness simulator, even for someone like me. And like there was a section where you swim in the game, which I felt was particularly rough. And like even for me to get through it was kind of challenging, which is later on. I don't think you guys have experienced that.
Not yet.
And there's also sections where you control turrets with your face. Like, you know, you've probably experienced that on the plane. You do that in the tank as well later on. And I think that feels a bit out of place. Feels like you're playing Gunjack from like 2014 or 2015, whenever that game came out. It feels very odd. And I think that's why I talk about these kind of like old game design choices. There's a stealth mission which is just like, I wanted to pull the hair that I didn't have on my head out because it was just so annoying. You do something slightly wrong and then it's that you're dead. There was no leeway in between.
So, there's like, as you said, like there are missions that like, there was a point in the game after I think mission 2, it's like, I'm playing Medal of Honor now in VR. And suddenly like, wow, this is freaking amazing, super badass. As you said, comic moments where it's really funny, where you're totally in there, super chaotic, sometimes serious, sometimes not. And I was like, this is what I want. But it's like, this game is like a roller coaster where some missions don't feel like missions because, as you said, it's 5 minutes. You shoot like 4 soldiers and victory, and you get another cutscene. There are moments where I'm totally into the action, and it lets me enjoy that action. It lets me enjoy the environment I'm in. But other missions, it's like the environment is ready for me, but then I don't even get to spend 5 minutes in it, and I'm again in a cutscene, and I'm getting just like taken out of the combat. You know,
that's true.
And that's the hard part. Like it's a game that just has too many ups and downs where it's just hard to.
But I think it's important to say that that's a very personal opinion. Like I understand why
everything
Sim would
here
like
is
that.
personal.
Yeah, I know, but
based.
like what we're trying to do is we're trying to give an impression of the game, and there are things that I don't like, and there will other people who say, oh, but that's the best part of the game. I think it's very hard to say that this is the worst game of the year, or like.
I'm not saying it's the worst game of the year.
It's in the middle somewhere.
I'm saying it's probably the most disappointing game of the year because it could have and should have probably been better, in my opinion.
It should have been better, but I don't think it's the most disappointing game of the year.
Well,
but the thing
our
is,
opinions kind of match Steam because in the end it's 50-50 as well. You know, there's
true.
Steam
Pretty
says
negative
it's
now.
amazing, and it's still kind of in the middle there.
I think they're on mostly negative as of this morning. So the thing I was going to say
it's 40%
about
negative,
the thing I was going to say, like there was a massive difference what I'm seeing and hearing from other players. As I said, I've spent 4 hours talking to people online, playing with them on multiplayer, also getting their impressions of not only the single player but multiplayer. I think it's an important thing to mention. Like Rowdy said, the full package. A game that only delivers single player, you play it and it's on the shelf for most single player VR games. If it's a multiplayer game only, then you play it for a couple of months and then nobody's playing it anymore. So this is a combination of those two, and it definitely wins points for me for doing both, and doing both actually quite well. Multiplayer is weaker than single player in my opinion. It is more taxing on your system as a result.
Oh my God.
And it becomes their level design and the actual differences between the guns, the gunplay, the different modes are nice, but I see a lot of fluctuation between mode to mode, what's fun, what isn't. Lobbies, of course, at the moment, especially given the fact that the game is so large to download, so expensive, so people are humming and hawing over, is it worth it? That's the most common question I'm getting on the game. But I do find like 12 very detailed maps very well done. And I actually think that for a game that initially we thought was only going to be a single player experience, has been undersold. They did that one multiplayer trailer. I found it even very difficult to find some of the basic details about the multiplayer outside of that sphere. And I really feel it's undersold. I think it's underperforming right now. Maybe that's why they're underselling it compared to the single player game in terms of what you can run. But the experience is still a solid experience.
Of everything, the most potential this game has is the multiplayer.
I totally agree with Nathan with this. Yeah.
Because that is just like, as you said, like the fact that it's in the package and it's huge. I said, like, split it off. Please split off the multiplayer. Make it $20 or something and let people play that, because the multiplayer is really good. It's really, really fun. There are some things that need to be changed, but overall the maps are good. It's fast paced. It works.
Customization is very solid as well. You can feel like your character.
I could totally understand why some people would only buy it for the multiplayer. Now, I heard some people say, yeah, but Medal of Honor is all about the story. Well, I remember my LAN parties with friends, and we played Medal of Honor multiplayer. We never really cared about the story. So there are two camps here where you can do both, but the multiplayer has a lot of potential.
Yeah, I haven't tried the multiplayer myself yet, but I do have the feeling that there is indeed a lot of potential there if they can get the player base to support that kind of title.
So what they do in the multiplayer is they fill up the lobby with bots that don't have players. And that works for the most part, although obviously it's not as fun as playing with real life players. But, I think that the multiplayer does have potential, and I think the maps are really nice and detailed. They look really great. The gunplay, if, you could show someone some gameplay of this and say this is Battlefield in VR, and they would probably believe you. Do you know what I mean? It's that sort of level of quality. And I think, the game modes, some of them work, some of them don't. I don't know, like the bomb one particularly worked well for me, but team deathmatch, domination, as what you'd expect. I think the game does need some weapon balancing because the lever action rifle is just way OP.
It's
literally it's like one shot kills.
It's amazing. So, it's a railgun. It absolutely needs to be balanced. Totally
I do think it would benefit from a progression system. So you'd be getting like ranks, a bit like in a Call of Duty game, for example. I think, having the multiplayer characters unlocked during the single player gameplay, they should have just tied that to the multiplayer alone. So, with your progression, you unlock multiplayer skins, and that would be a reward for leveling up, whereas they tie it to the single player campaign. So when you complete a mission, you unlock gallery content and multiplayer skins, which doesn't really make much sense in my opinion.
They're changing that again, actually, Mike. So they're apparently taking out the gallery unlocks, and they're gonna allow unlocking all at once for the gallery.
Okay, that's smart.
I know we haven't talked in depth about the gallery yet. I'll stay off the topic for the moment. But in terms of the concept that you're saying, the single player unlock, I feel it's like a nice treat at the end, but I would agree that it's unnecessary, and actually tying it to multiplayer would be closer to what players would expect. It feels odd that you're unlocking stuff in single player and then you go play the multiplayer and you're like, hang on a second, there's nothing. There's not even like a visible ranking system or any kind of unlocks, which players are pretty accustomed to. And like you say, this game feels, if like anything else, to me, it reminds me of like Bad Company 2, playing that game. And it's very fast, kind of vociferous combat. Gunplay is fantastic in multiplayer. As I said again, I'll say it again, the level design is absolutely gorgeous, and it's not samey in any way. And in 12 maps, I'm like, oh my god, we're still getting new stuff. And the modes are good, but like you, I found the bomber one not as thrilling as I was expecting it to be. But the biggest weak spot for me, and you said it at the outset when we started talking about Medal of Honor, the bot AI is not great. It is like they all feel the same. It's the same problem that I had with Frostpoint, which is that 10v10 game. If you have bots and you have humans, I think there's a cardinal rule that developers should avoid, which is it doesn't matter how many humans you have in a match. You shouldn't have more bots than you have humans.
Agreed.
Otherwise, it feels inhuman. And you shouldn't get away from that feeling. Even if it's 2 humans, 2 bots, that's fine. I know your levels may be big bots or whatever, but padding out with bots is not a good way to fill a game.
Like bots at all in this game. Like the bots are super stupid. They're sometimes stuck. Sometimes they stand in a wall and they just shoot in the wall because they have no idea where the enemy is. So the bots are not doing it. But as I said, it did feel like taking me back to one of the older Medal of Honor games, playing the multiplayer. And all the mechanics that you have in the single player, you could just use in the multiplayer and they work just as well. Honestly, this is one of the I'm not saying it's the best game of the year, but I do want to say it's one of the best looking games of this year. It's beautiful. It's there are scenes where I'm like, is this a photo that I'm in? But then, as I said, like it's just filled with this gameplay that I just didn't want it to be.
The consistency of the environment. The thing
outside is nice.
The thing that Nathan's hammering on, and I absolutely want to highlight this point as well. What you get in a lot of VR games is what I call like a 3-tier effect. You'll get the stuff that's close to you, that's level of detail as you expect. You'll then get some kind of cage outside of that's a lower level of detail, and you can kind of see the transition between them. Then you usually get a lo-fi skybox, and it just stands out really obviously. I think the first place I saw it was like the lab demo when you're up on the mountaintop with that little robo-dog, and you like saw the rocks near you, and then you saw the mountains far away, and you could see the disparity between the two. This game does an excellent job, I mean really excellent job, of making that feel seamless. Like, I don't know how they deal with it, and I think it's part of the reason why it's got high recommended specs to drive it, but I'm on a 1080 and it's running great, and I'm like able to see detail close and mid-range and far, and there's no obvious gradation. It's just like all part of a scene, and so like Nathan said, it feels like a postcard. You take pictures in this game.
It does. Yeah, they're scenes, especially when you're inside buildings. I remember like this floor, and it's kind of shiny, but then there's also mob that fell over the floor, and you can just see that Respawn Entertainment has years of experience to make something like that. So from the visual part, it's amazing. But then, as I said, it's getting filled with enemy AI that are just kind of dumb and don't really know how to use the actual map that they are in. And then with the weapons, it just doesn't match the same vibe. But visually, my days, is it great, really.
And I think this is where I think the game has the most potential, because I think if they put some time in updating it, and this has probably been my biggest concern overall, is that I feel like this game is going to be abandoned by Respawn. I don't think they're going to be updating it. I may be wrong, but I'm just looking back.
They are now updating it, but it's the basic stuff like smooth turning.
Turning, because it's only snap turn right now.
You mean post-launch content, like properly like hammer in? But you think why? Because it's taken so long to get to this point that now the baby's gone. Well, maybe it's time to let it go.
And also, look, historically, like with Insomniac, that was another huge studio that worked on Stormland, and that had a really big part of its game, which was an online part of it, right? This kind of persistent world that you could go back and it was ever evolving. They dropped it day one and they literally dropped it like a stone and ran away. Like they never updated that game.
But that was due to an acquisition. It was competition at that stage, and if it's not in the interest of the acquirer.
What we got to remember here is that both of these games were funded by Oculus. This is not Respawn Entertainment saying, let's do a Medal of Honor game in VR because we want to do it on our own merits. This was paid by Oculus, and the same with Stormland. So the second that money dries up, you think they're going to be coming back for more? I don't think so.
Well, I mean,
and that's my biggest concern, I think.
The game is also abandoned. If the multiplayer really takes off and you have a lot of people playing this game, I think it would be wise from Oculus.
like I said earlier,
VR, that's the problem. It's not going to happen.
If they bring it to Quest.
What it needs is
Quest. Yeah.
And I touched on this earlier on in the show, is that like big box VR has really sort of shown that doing like regular events, working with the community, adding bits and pieces to make the game more interesting, a progression system that's satisfying will keep your player base coming back for more. And the problem is this game doesn't have that right now. It has the potential to be an amazing, like one of the better sort of PC VR multiplayer VR titles. But the problem is without that developer support and the community sort of relations, these people are going to drop this game within a few weeks' time, and then the player base drops, and then all you're doing is playing bots, and then the game's just dead.
Well, talking like for the multiplayer, I think they're if they really, as you said, if they really wanted to, they could make this very popular. And that's just on PC VR platform, without the help of standalone. It's possible. Look at Population One. I mean, they're driving numbers too in the PC VR market that others are just struggling with. Single player wise, like I know we have different opinions on that. I think if they fix the first 2 hours pace wise, they take out some missions maybe that just they could kind of get rid of because they just don't really work, or change them up a little bit, then it might work. But as long as the first 2 hours are rough and pace-wise don't make much sense and take you out of the experience nonstop, I think it's gonna still suffer from those bad reviews that people call their first looks.
I would be really interested to see if your opinion changes having finished the game.
See, and the thing is, I am cognizant of that, right? So this is me 4 hours into the single player and the multiplayer, and you guys know I'm comfortable in having a different opinion. I am, and I'm not saying this because I want to be.
It's just like what I'm saying is like it's hard to force people into the first 2 hours of this game. Like the rest of what I played is amazing, but
that's why I find it just strange because I'm in those first couple of hours. Zim is also in those. It's already past those first couple of hours, and I'm having a great time.
Yeah, I've had such a ball, lads. I mean, to me, it feels like we've taken the facial animations and character animations from L.A. Noire, the kind of episodic, chapterized.
It's not as good as L.A. Noire.
You can't just interrupt me, Mike. I can make a point. All right, so L.A. Noire's facial animations, in terms of the detail of the characters. You've got Alex in terms of the chapterization. I liked when they did the chapters, like the little bite-sized segments that you're progressing with. Although I agree that, as you're progressing, you don't know where you're going next, but I'm fine with that. And you've kind of fused the kind of brutality side of Saints and Sinners in. You can do what you like to these, the Nazi bastards who you're fighting against. And those three together as a sandwich, to me, I feel like this is way better. Nazi's saying pacing, but I feel like this is way more entertaining for me as a package than the dry spots of Alex. Because there are spots in Alex that, and I know there's people here listening who are going to be like, Alex is my baby. And I get that, right? I'm like that way with Skyrim and Sinners. But I'm telling you, this is better delivery up to this point, 4 hours into the single player, than Sinners does. Sinners has dry spots. What Alex has that frustrates me is, those puzzles, like where you've got like 3D puzzles and stuff, and they keep throwing the same thing at you with little tweaks. It just felt like reused assets. That stuff for me
makes
our
this. Listeners are saying, let's not compare this game to Alex. Let's just not do that because it doesn't make any sense.
Yes, it does. It does. It's a benchmark, just like the other games I've mentioned.
They are both AAA titles. That's the only thing that they have in common.
And they have a lot of game mechanics in common, and how the game is portrayed.
I think, I would love to see your opinion on it, like in a couple of weeks' time once you finished it. Just because
it won't take me a couple of weeks.
I think you're on a roller coaster here, and I think you're in one of the high points. There is plenty of dips, and I think that overall tars the overall experience for me. There are some significant lows in the game for me that I just think could have been done way better. And Omaha Beach is a good example of this, and I don't want to spoil anything, but I think that level is a huge disappointment and could have been executed in a way, way better way. And for me, you know, that level should be like your like level of the game that everyone talks about. Do you know what I mean? Everyone showcases in a video, and I had the choice of the whole campaign to show off in a video, and I chose one on a train. And the reason why I chose the one on the train is because it's linear, didn't show any of the crappy stat movement, and you could play it through it quite easily. Whereas Omaha Beach would have been the ideal one, but the way that the mechanics they implement in that ruin the whole pacing of that level, and you'll find that when you play it, I guess.
You just hit a really important point. Okay, so I think that the immersion options in the game are really quite good. So the ability to turn off pretty much all of the HUD. I've got everything turned off except for highlight item, right? And that's because of a few. And the game is just really, really. I mean, Nathan said it already. It's very pretty. I don't go for looks. I look for gameplay. And the thing for me is the different weapons feel good. I think the sniper rifle is the only example. You mentioned the repeater rifle where one-handed reload or snap down, snap back up. It's just so much fun. Like that's not a weapon I was expecting to run across. It's not just all the same weapons you normally play with. Even the pistols feel great and unique. So like the weapon side, I know you mentioned that as the strength. For me, it's really. And it's funny that we're so like on different sides of this right now.
It is.
Because the first half of this story, for me, has been maybe the most cohesive visual, audio, pacing journey that I've had in VR so far. Like it's really strong, in my opinion.
Again, like it's all based on expectations here. I think I got really hyped when I saw the trailer for the single player, and when you now play those levels, in my opinion, it's not the same vibe.
I agree with that.
And
it's not the same as the show in the trailer.
Of course, they always kind of play with that, but in this case, it's just totally different. And well, I gotta give my hats off to them for making this trailer because it looks amazing. But then when you play it, it's like they were hiding the perfect moments that just made it kind of wonky. So
do you like the humor in the game, guys? Because I'm curious just to dive into that. Like for me, it resonates, but I get the feeling that maybe it's a kind of an imbued American style humor that doesn't going to sync with everybody.
The first thing I did in the game was shoot that kid. Like, dear
Ollie.
God,
Same.
I find him annoying. All my days, I find really like. Oh, I think I'm going to shoot him. So far in every level that I've started, I've at least tried shooting him in the hope that he wouldn't return back in.
But it's interesting though that we have such different opinions on the game. Yeah, and I think I
get you guys' opinion. Like I don't fully agree with Zim, and I don't fully agree with you guys either. But yeah, I'm somewhere in between. But like I said, like I haven't finished the game like Mike has, so I can't give my full opinion on the game. But what I've tried so far, I like. Save for, I agree with you with the facial animations because I laughed a couple of times really hard on that because they look like they're like someone just said something really badly and then they look at the ground like, why did you say that? Like,
they look very scared or like super.
Oh my days.
But on one side it's funny, but there are like moments, as Mike said with D-Day as well. Like there are these soldiers that look like that, and you're like totally in there, and then suddenly turns around, and you're like, oh yes, this is one of those phases. You know what I mean? Like if that wasn't there, it would really keep you in the game, and it would really keep you, focused.
I get that. But still, for me, like it doesn't make the game less fun.
I don't know. Like I think like for some PC VR titles, like it's quite rare to get a PC VR AAA title nowadays.
Very rare.
I don't know how many we're still going to get for the upcoming years, but the thing is, it's like there hasn't been that much coming out this year in terms of, and Medal of Honor, of course, has been going on for ages. Same with Lone Echo. We're still waiting for Lone Echo. We're all hoping that that's going to be amazing too. But we're waiting, and then it finally comes out, and then, everything builds up. And the thing is, I love Medal of Honor. I still love PC VR. I just wanted to end December with a freaking bang. Like, PC VR is still there. This is why, Quest is completely irrelevant because this is amazing stuff that you got to play. But for me, it just isn't it. sadly.
Is there any more news that we can disagree on, Mike? Or
maybe.
Well,
Yeah.
well, hang on.
But
What about the gallery here? So, like, because this is a really important, like, second hemisphere to the game, and I actually think, like, going in, I was like, hang on a second, guys. So the gallery, for those who don't know, the gallery is the part of the game where you get a lot, way more than I was expecting, and I know it's 30 gigs worth of videos. Like, I'll say high definition, they're probably 4K. And 360s, which are kind of lo-fi, of VR vets, them being interviewed. And like, if I think about the production budget, they clearly took a lot of planes from like the States and other places around Europe back and forth. I mean, a big part of the production budget had to go into that. They even at one stage are showing off, it looked like about 40 or 50 vets together. And it looked like they were all in scope for this kind of interview process involved in this. And they kind of deep dive on about 12 or so of them, and then various things like German bunkers and stuff. And at the moment, you're unlocking these periodically as you play through the campaign. We've heard on Reddit that they're going to allow that to kind of open up, and then you're just going to be able to get open access to all of it. Before I even played the game, I started by going into this and just watching everything that you could at the outlet, which was something like 15 or 20 videos, and took me probably the best part of an hour to cut through. Have you guys been through the gallery content yet? I'm just kind of curious if you've been through that content yet.
I haven't been through it all. Obviously, I've unlocked most of it, I think.
Oh, yeah.
But I've watched a few of them, and what I found from the gallery was that it was very emotional, heartfelt sort of stories from veterans that were there. You know, like these kind of like random encounters with people, and them recounting the memories, and then they take them back to the location where that memory was, and you know, it gets very emotional actually. And I was like, holy crap, this is stirring up some emotions in me. And I kind of felt like I wish, and I know you kind of disagree with me on this, Zim, because you said earlier about the tone and everything, but I do wish they had carried over that kind of heartfelt feeling into the game.
Exactly.
To make the game gritty, you mean? Make the game actually heavy.
Because I have the feeling a lot that like the game is like a little bit like the glorification of war in a way, you know.
Yeah,
like
it is.
Heroes on the which is completely wrong in terms of like how World War II actually happened, you know, what actually went down there, and the American role in that. But like when you see like then they have then on the other side, you know, that really heartfelt gallery, and I just think that awfully conflicts with the way that the game is portrayed in this like heroic kind of style. I find that really strange.
Do you know what would have been better? Do you know what would have been better? Like, just think, this just came to me right now, is that you, in between each mission, instead of having a stupid like campy cutscene,
you mean a little bit of
they played the gallery and they said, I was there on the landing craft. I was like absolutely terrified. I was throwing up in my helmet. I didn't know what to expect. You know, there were people around me crying. There were people around me dying. You get this emotional sense, and then you play through it yourself, and you play it in like it would have been like
it would only work if
impactful.
it's the game you're envisaging, Mike. If it was gritty, if it was bitey, right? And I can see that game. I do find that these two are weird peas to put in one pod. It is strange, right? But again, I suppose it comes down to what do you want to play? What do you want to play? If I ask myself, do I want to play another heavy, you know, gritty shooter, an insurgency in World War II? I don't know that. Am I going to enjoy that?
I want to play something that I'm going to remember. Exactly. You know, like I feel like this doesn't instill any like memories for me that I think, oh yeah, that was a really.
There was a COD that did that really well. I can't remember if it was World War I or World War II, but that was free a couple of months back, and I played it, and it did that.
Castle Wolfenstein?
No, it wasn't. Return to Castle Wolfenstein.
That's kind of what it feels like to me. Like a game like that would also not like, you know.
No, it's kind of Indiana Jones meets. It's a bit of an adventure, but you're referring to the BBC one, right? Mm-hmm. Where you're sitting in the...
Me? No. It was it was actually a flat game. It was a Call of Duty thing. I had never experienced it, but it did just that. It did what Mike describes. It was very gritty, and at the same time, it didn't glorify war as well as this does. This feels like you're playing through a comic book of World War II. You know what I mean?
Wasn't that the way they advertised this game? They said like it's an accurate historical game, and we honor the veterans and stuff. But honestly, like there are moments in there where I'm like, I don't know if they treated Germans that way, man. Like you know, so
yeah. The other thing I didn't like was, and I know this is probably a little dicey to mention, but I felt like the gallery, they did the typical kind of American thing of, maybe it's not just American, maybe I'm being too hard on my own kind of half people because I'm a halfling, half Irish, half American. Yeah, but like, I'm not sure. They kind of pull. They've got the race card in there. They're like, oh, we've got the one black guy, and they make it about color, and then they've got one German guy in there, like, oh, he's the enemy, and we're going to tell the enemy's story from his side. I just felt a little bit like it didn't feel very genuine the way they did it. Like they were trying to tick the boxes. And so to me, the fact that they've got these two parts together, again, I'm glad that I'm getting to see the story, and separately as a different heartbeat, I'm able to see these additional things as unlocks. I like that. Yeah. But again, I'm still not fully convinced they belong in the same package. And these additions that they've added, it kind of feels like a cover your ass strategy. It feels like we're going to make this game. Why do we put all this investment in? Is this just making sure that it's not going to go down like a rock? Because if you think about the time when the game was incepted, 2016, 2017, there were games taking a lot of flack for that type of treatment, So it might have been a strategy to say, let's protect our IP.
What is also interesting, and this is something I haven't heard many people about, that I remember being a big discussion in Call of Duty when they made their World War II title, the last one, is that you can pick your character. You can be a woman, you can be a man, and you can also pick your skin color. Yeah. And of course, historical wise, there are certain missions where that might not make sense, but others it might make sense. Yeah. So it's interesting but I feel like that's maybe coming from Facebook saying like, listen, we want that in there so people can, choose. Yeah. But I thought it was interesting because I don't think there's any other World War II game where you get to really, kind of like pick your own character.
We didn't touch on customization, and I think that's where you're kind of taking us. And I think
kind of like customization.
The customization side of it is actually really nice. So in this game, you can pick a couple of different hands, a couple of different body types. It's not greatly variant, but I think you've got a couple of options.
It's there. So.
But then, not in single player, in the multiplayer, where I would say it really matters, you unlock quite a plethora of skins, models, variants. You've got people who look like grandmothers, every color, every race, different kind of people with aviator glasses to funny top hats and stuff. I actually think that they did that, again, more justice than I was expecting for the multiplayer half of this game. Especially when we didn't know multiplayer was even in it until 2 months ago. It's weird.
Yeah.
So I think we should probably move on from Medal of Honor a bit. But yeah, like we'll revisit this, I think. Once you guys have maybe finished the campaign, we'll revisit it and talk about it again. I think we should bypass Myst for now. I think we should maybe save it for next week's show so we can really give a deep dive on that and give me time to play that as well, because I think Zim's only played it so far.
Yeah. That's fine.
Any sort of hot takes that you want to share very quickly?
You mean on Myst?
Yeah. Good. Like thumbs up, thumbs bad, in the middle?
It's a middle.
Thumbs down?
The only thing I was going to say is don't play it on Quest 1 because it's got some performance drags, okay? But no, I think you'll enjoy it, Mike. As a puzzler, it's quite satisfying. So
Okay. So yeah, we can talk about that on next week's show in more detail, because I do want to get through the hot topic this week, because I think it is an important thing to discuss.
Definitely.
And this is about Facebook being under fire from both the FTC and the German government at the moment.
Wait, German? That's
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let's start with the FTC, because I wasn't that familiar with what the FTC actually is. But if you're not familiar, it's the Federal Trade Commission. Their tagline is protecting America's consumers. So it's like a US thing. So I did a bit of research on it this morning, and there's a great article from Road to VR that really sort of go in depth in this if you want to go and check that out. But I'll sort of summarize the sort of situation with the FTC and Facebook. Basically, the FTC have filed a lawsuit against Facebook on the 9th of December, alleging anti-competitive practices that constitute an illegal monopoly on personal social networking. They're specifically referring to the acquisition of both WhatsApp and Instagram, and Facebook having a monopoly over the sort of social media market, as it were. They state that Facebook is following a course of conduct which harms competition and leaves consumers with few choices and deprives advertisers the benefit of competition. And it's interesting because Zim has actually mentioned this a few times on the show in the past, and it was something that I wasn't really aware of until he mentioned it for the first time, that this was even a thing. Like, a company having a monopoly over a market could actually be subject to legal action. And
it was, the thing is, it was, I'm trying to remember who it was. It wasn't Ford. I think it was a like a coal or an oil company who they had to bust up. And
Split up.
they actually did it to Bell as well, Bell Labs, the telco. So that's telecommunications provider and research group. So I was just calling it out that like when you do have a corporation as, I'll call it edge pushing as Facebook, and in a position of a monopoly, it's quite important that that's kept in check by regulators. And the problem is, particularly in the technology sector, regulators are demonstrably slow, way too slow. We saw it in I won't go into all the political side of it, but like election manipulation and all this other stuff, just areas that people weren't expecting. And it doesn't matter if we've learned our lesson 3, 4, 5, 8 years ago, the same things, law still hasn't caught up. So I'm actually really quite glad to see something like this because it will help to keep in check this growth. And if nothing else, even if nothing comes from this, it's like a fire across the bow. And I don't think it'll just inherently keep Facebook in check, but they need to be kept in check. And what might end up happening, what you end up happening with this oftentimes is they'll split a company in 2 or 3, and they'll say you have to be separate companies. You can't just be one entity.
Exactly that. And so this is what they're saying. The FTC are saying that they're acting in an anti-competitive way by doing anti-competitive acquisitions of companies, and also their anti-competitive platform conduct are the 2 sort of main steers of this sort of lawsuit. Like you said, this could ultimately result in the company being broken up and them losing control of both WhatsApp and Instagram, or them being, siloed off into different parts of the company. At this time, the lawsuit doesn't mention anything about VR, virtual reality, or Oculus.
Is that because VR is just not relevant enough yet to be kind of?
I think the main
Instagram or
the main
WhatsApp.
crux of this is social media domination rather than VR. However, it could be said that in the VR space that Oculus are an anti-competitive platform, and they've done anti-competitive conduct on their platform. So that might come out in the wash through this investigation. We've seen that Oculus aggressively pricing headsets which competitors can't match. No one has even come close.
And VR is becoming more and more social too. Right now it's still kind of but if it becomes more social, then
And don't forget that it can, because they own Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, or use all those platforms for targeted advertisements regarding their own products as well.
Yep.
Like Oculus.
Yeah. And the thing is, no one's come close in terms of quality and performance of the original Quest, let alone Quest 2. So they're really pushing ahead. Obviously, with
the timing of this is very important. That's the one thing I wanted to say, is that as we're really seeing the kind of rocket boosters light up under VR, and Facebook seem to be driving that particular rocket ship with the Quest and the Quest 1 and Quest 2. I think this is coming at a really important juncture. This is obviously tied to their earlier acquisitions. Again, you're talking 10, 15 years ago here.
Yep.
And this is, again, my point. It takes regulators, 8 to 15 to 20 years to just even catch up and agree on the laws that are going to bind these companies. And this anti-competitive thing is a big deal in the States. I don't know how big it is in other countries. I know in the UK, you've got British Telecom, for example. Some of the examples in chat were given between that and Global Reach, for example. Visa, I think, in Europe got split up for the same reason. So you've seen this elsewhere, but I'm very curious to see what its effect has, positive or negative, on VR. Mm-hmm. I think if I was to take again hazard a guess, I would guess that they would take Oculus or Facebook Reality Labs and Oculus and kind of compartmentalize that into a company. If this goes the way I think it will end up going, that'll end up in a bucket. And in a different bucket, you'd have probably WhatsApp and Instagram, or you'd have the different services being split apart and divided. Yeah. But the thing is, in Facebook's interest, they want all that data together. This is what Rowdy was talking about, because there's cross benefits. And what the regulator inevitably is going to want is to draw those dividing lines and agree a plan with Facebook that says, well, you're going to split and we're going to make you safe and sound. And then it becomes the regulator's job to continually basically audit them and make sure that they are segregated and there isn't any underhand stuff going on.
Yeah, because this anti-competitive, we've seen this recently as well, on Twitter and on in the VR news pages like from Upload VR and Rotor VR as well, like, you know, accusations from developers like Darshan from Big Screen stating that they're being squeezed for costs for selling movie tickets, while similar apps on the platform aren't paying the same costs. We've seen accusations of straight up copying apps like from Your, which is strikingly similar to Oculus Move. We've seen features being copied and blocked like Virtual Desktop. And it's these kind of practices that I think if they probe into like the Oculus and VR side of Facebook, that they'll see these things, and then these will come to light as well in their investigation.
I'll tell you what, I feel, I'm sorry to say this, but I'm going to be the negative Nancy here. I think that, again, given the model that I was talking about the more macro split up and the bucketing of the company entities that exist after the breakup, if there was to be one, I think they'd still be getting away with murder in that silo for VR. I think it's going to take them some more time. Again, 3 to 8 to 10 years to catch up in that space. I think it's just too nascent. It's too new.
And I think, like you say, it's a long, drawn-out process. It could take months or even years, like you say. So this is just the beginning, but I do think it's interesting, and I think it's interesting to highlight as well. And it's something that we'll obviously keep a track on and obviously report on if we get any news back. But like you say, it will be interesting to see how it affects Oculus and Facebook as a whole in a positive or negative way.
But would it be good for the VR industry if something similar like this would happen to the Oculus part of the...
The problem is there isn't...
It's 50-50, I guess. Yeah, of course, right now... That would be a bad thing because they're the only ones making VR as it is right now. But let's say if there would be other competitors around, because Facebook also has competitors in the social media scene, you know?
The thing is, like, I know there's a lot of people out there that are very negative and anti-Facebook and anti-Oculus, but, you know, like I've said many times before, without them, the VR industry wouldn't be where it is today. And, you know, although my criticisms of Medal of Honor, I'm happy that game exists. Do you know what I mean? And without them, that game would never have been made. So, you know, you got to take the rough with the smooth in that sense. But, you know, alongside the FTC, they're not the only ones that have got their sights on Facebook. The German government have also got their sights on them as well. This was covered in detail by Upload VR. So again, if you want to go and check it out, the full story in full detail, go and check out the article from them.
The interesting part is that the Germans just said, like, listen, you know, you can't buy the Quest because it's still tied into the whole Facebook platform. So you couldn't get your hands on one.
You're right that we can't get our hands on one in Germany, but we're not sure. Like, this was a proactive approach from Oculus. They actually pulled them and from sale in Germany because of the disagreement with the government. I don't think it was a stipulation from them at this point. But it was going down that road, it seems.
Under coercion.
But it shows that that's definitely a problem data-wise that happens, you know?
We did talk about this on the show a few months ago, and it was just prior to the Quest 2 launch that this was all announced, that the headsets wouldn't be available in Germany. Yeah. You know, you can still import one, and you can still use one in Germany. You just can't buy one in a shop over there. But basically, this week, the German government proceeded with legal action against Facebook, with Andreas Mundt, president of the Federal Cartel Office, saying, since all new users of Oculus devices must also have a Facebook account, forcibly linking its VR products and its social network, this could constitute a prohibited abuse of dominance by Facebook. With its social network, Facebook holds a dominant position in Germany and is already an important player in the emerging but growing VR market. We intend to examine whether and to what extent this tying arrangement will affect competition in both areas of activity. So, again, it's this kind of anti-competitive nature that they're investigating as well. So it's interesting that both the FTC and the German government are on the same lines potentially. So yeah, interesting stuff from both fronts. Whether this will play out as a drastic change in policy in the future, and they'll drop that side of things, you know, requiring a Facebook account to use a Quest 2, I highly doubt it.
Dude, but it would be amazing. Like, if that would happen, that's like great.
That would be a U-turn for the history books for sure.
I think it would be a win overall, but
it would be a win for everyone.
We'll see.
But I just doubt it.
Not happening in 2020 anyway.
You know, you got to remember, you know, although you got the might of the FTC and the might of the German government, Facebook do have a crap ton of money for probably the best lawyers in the world. So who knows what happened?
84 years before we get
it probably will. But I think it's interesting to mention nevertheless. And like I said before, we'll keep a beat on this.
If it would become like, let's say, if all of their headsets would become open, you know, in terms of what you could use, then I think like the numbers would go up insanely in a way where, like, you would say like 90% owns Facebook hardware, even that, well, you don't need
I think what they'd have to do is just bring back the Oculus account. I don't think that there will be
the
just
Oculus
open
account.
up to be used on anything that you can use the Oculus Store. You would still have to have an account. It would just not be connected to your Facebook
No.
social profile.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I would see as well. But I
That's
think
what the issue is, right?
if I was a person who was, anti-Facebook, anti-Quest now, and this change happens, I'm certainly not in the next year going to go pick up a Quest. I'm not going to trust that change. They flip one way, they can flip back the other way. Like I would, even with the price point being there, I'd still be hesitant about my purchasing decisions.
Well,
at
you
that
want to see
stage.
proof. You want to see proof of they actually doing that. And when do you trust proof in nowadays world, right?
That's yeah.
That's hard.
Especially, the thing is, this is the problem, especially with data, especially with, the company who says, oh, you once logged into one of our browsers at some stage somewhere. Well, now we're tracking you. It's like, it's hard for somebody who's been in that position of really data control for so long to believe that they're just going to happily back off of it, even if told to. So.
Yeah, it will be interesting for sure. But many people out there would rather choose another platform or pay over the odds for another headset just so they can avoid a Facebook account. But, as we know, the Quest 2 has been a stellar success and a lot of people just don't care about this. I think it's to a certain degree that we're in this VR bubble that it is such an important thing for us, of course, to talk about it. But for a lot of people out there, they just don't care. People don't care using Facebook accounts to sign into a headset.
One quick mention, because this isn't a new situation for them, some people who might be new to VR might not know that actually, for instance, when the Oculus Go landed, the Chinese government required separate hardware and software to be created by Oculus. So there was an individual device. It wasn't the Oculus Go. I forget what it was called.
It was the Mi,
Xiaomi or something. Yeah. So this happened before. They had strategies. They've obviously learned from it, so they may be able to pivot quickly, even if the axe doth fall.
Yeah. Yep. So there we go. That's news about the FTC.
It's kind of like government involvement in companies. You don't see that too often here in the West, but it's very common actually in China. Like it's kind of their version of capitalism in a way. It says that companies have much more control over companies than they do in the West.
I have to say, it's not something that I've ever really noticed before in the gaming industry, and maybe I've had my head in the sand to a certain degree, but it is interesting that this thing, like you say, having a monopoly over a market even exists, and I do find it interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a tough spot for Facebook to back out of, because who's that competitor going to be? I've said it
also
before,
to a certain degree, you almost, if looking from a naive point of view, I would say, we're investing all this money. That's why we're doing this, because we're spending all the money to make these products better. Other companies aren't doing it, and now we're being punished.
I agree with that,
I don't know.
But at the same time, they're not doing this because they want to push the technology further.
No,
right?
of course.
It's not because of, out of the
They
good
want
of
your
their heart
gold.
they're doing this.
And the trouble here is, and I think this is important just to diagram in everyone's brains, if you think about a legal entity, as that bubble grows larger, it becomes a bit like the Blob. Now that's like a 1950s film that most of you are not going to remember. The Blob came down from outer space and just started eating everybody. It just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And the trouble is, if you have an entity that wants to just feed itself and stay alive, and this is what companies are great at. They're great at kind of feeding their own needs and driving them forward, and every year, every quarter, doing better. If you can slice that up, you can control its growth rate and the damage it can do, as well as the good it can do. And that's what they tend to do with these divisions. So it's going to be an interesting future. I'm glad we're seeing some teeth come out, though. It's a good thing. It's actually a good thing. So, because they're competitors. Think, if you're a competitor, if you're the Deca Gear or whatever else, or you're even somebody like Apple or Sony, and you're planning your next headset, you're going, oh, excellent. The door is about to open for us. Let's get our people ready to kind of dive into that, because the thing companies love going after is market share. And it's like, when you know that there's a potential opening, you start to direct your funds in that way, your direction, your development.
I love this combination. Deca Gear, Apple, Sony. Beautiful.
It's like a love triangle.
It's beautiful.
So that is obviously the news from FTC and the German government. Obviously, we talked about Medal of Honor as well, but now it's time for releases this week, because we've got a few things to talk about, and I think Zim's particularly excited about something. I don't know what it is, but he's excited.
I am so
and
excited.
when he's got that look on his face, it can either be something great or it can be something terrible.
You're not going to lie at the end of the year, right?
Oh, you're going to see these goods. They're not lies. This is the truth. Real news.
Once,
It's
every
like-
time now, I'm like, I'm not sure he's telling the truth or not, just because of that one time with that car game or something.
Yeah. It's like that scene out of Flash Gordon. You're putting your hand into that hole. You don't know what's in there. Could be a scorpion. Could be something else. Could be a candy bar. What are we going to get?
What do you know?
The Zim Lotto.
The Zim Lotto. Okay, this is great. This is the Zim Lotto section. So, and I think it was Nathan who was talking about this recently. And I was priming a developer for years about this idea. And I was like, come on. And it would never work with a Vive or whatever. You've wanted to be able to go for a jog in VR. And guess what? SideQuest has an app. Now you can. And I've tried it. It's good. It's called Happy Run. Now, Happy Run has you set in a scene that is... Now, this is alpha, okay? So don't get too excited, but it works.
What the name is an alpha or the game?
Happy Run is fucking banked, man. I hear they've got that website and everything. Imagine a kind of a Skyrim expanse. Very mountainous, very kind of Colorado looking, with pine trees scattered around, a bright blue sky above you, and a dirt trail. This is what Happy Run brings to SideQuest. So for free, if you've got a Quest, you can go and check this out. You've got an open world, and these are like open world exercises. So you're jogging along this path. All you're doing is running in place. When you stop, your character stops.
Wait. Are you running after someone? Because it looks like there's someone running in front of you. Do you have,
yes.
Do you have like an axe in your hand or something?
No, you don't have an axe. You're not an axe murderer. You're not chasing down this lady to chop her into little bits. You're just following this lady who happens to be in hot pants. But
Stalker Runner 2020.
it does feel a little bit like Stalker Runner, okay? I'll be honest, because I played it earlier. And the thing is, you're trying to catch up to this lady, and I think, disturbingly, at the start, the character says, like, wait up, mom, or something like that. And then you're chasing down this lady on this path. And the faster you run, just like in Wii Sports and stuff like that with the Wii Fit, the faster you run, the faster your character goes. And I do say you do travel maybe double the speed you probably should.
The closer you get to her, she just starts screaming. Oh my god.
Yeah,
sorry, I'm ruining this game.
It's fine. But the thing is, like, it actually runs... It runs smoothly right now. It doesn't work on a Go. I accidentally sideloaded it to a Go. I didn't know my Go was still connected to my PC. So it doesn't work on a Go. I tried it. But playing it, like, I ran half a kilometer. I would have easily run a kilometer. And they suggest you don't run more than a kilometer. And I would as well. Remember Zim's horrible mistake of running in Minecraft for 4 hours and then his knees being busted for 3 months?
Oh, yeah.
So take your time. Take your pace. Try this out. The only things that I didn't like about it are the controllers. If you set them down and you don't have them in your hands, the direction the controllers are in with respect to your headset is the direction you'll run, and also the direction you look, you'll run. So if there's like a canyon off to the left, as when you start with this game, and you look off to the left, you will run off the left. And when you fall, there actually is like fall damage, and there's blood flashed on the screen and stuff. So Rowdy, you're going to love that. You're going to absolutely love that. But you guys should really check this out, because as a starting thing, this is actually something that gives you the ability to exercise, jogging on a mat or whatever, in place, and you can actually run up a mountain. You don't have to follow the path. But I think the concept the developer has is that you're going to chase this woman, not with an axe.
Is it actually possible to catch your stepmom?
Yeah,
no.
I couldn't get up to the woman. I got close.
Is it like an endless runner like Super Mario 64 with the staircase? You have a feeling that you're almost there, but then in the end you aren't?
I think like so. So the environment is multiple square miles of non-linear running. It's an area. I haven't gotten to the edge like Pac-Man. I don't know if you teleport back to the start or what happens.
There must be another part to the game as well, because they put happy in the title. So I mean, there must be something at the end of their run, man.
Well, the thing is, if they make this multiplayer, you can run against other people, and it's kind of cartoony or something, and they're like obstacles on the way. Fun. You have to jump over them, and there are coins you can collect.
That would be fun.
I wouldn't even need the coins. It's called Happy Run. And
yeah, but the other game, like there was a game where you also had to run on the spot, and you had to dodge obstacles, and there were like different themes.
Like Temple Runner or something? Maybe there's something else I'm thinking of.
No, but like Unbreakable VR Runner or something.
Yeah, I think that was it. That was ancient now.
Yeah, yeah, I
know. Back in the day with the DK2 demos.
Ancient, yeah.
It is. So that's
interesting concept, though. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have to say that was the first thought I had was if you were running against other people, I think people would. I mean, I broke out into a sweat. It was proper good, and I was like, I could do this. I could do this. And if there was another person there, I would probably run more than I should, which tells me that there's definitely a game concept here to dive into.
Yeah.
So this is still early days, early access. That launched just on the 1st of December, and I thought I would share it with all of you. So Questers, enjoy that.
Well,
Happy
Not bad.
runner.
That's the first one.
Happy.
Second thing, okay, Nathan's going to be happy about this one because his favorite game ever is now landed on PC. Of course, I'm talking about Space Channel 5, kind of funky
What?
newsflash.
On PC.
On PC. It's actually come to PC, which I wasn't really expecting, although we knew it was going to be a timed release when that landed. So for
This is one to play on the Reverb. HP Reverb.
Yeah, I just want-
pretty lo-fi graphics. Basically, aliens are forcing people to dance, and you must save the world. And in a game that's going to take you, I mean, it's a very long campaign of somewhere between 45 minutes and an hour and a half for your $25.
Yes.
This is a very short game. Very short game. Even with the extras in it, super ultra short. Nathan and I both have played it through to the end. This is for those who don't know, this is like a Dreamcast legend. This character came from the Dreamcast console. That was before the millennium, right back like when we were in proper Tron. So Space Channel 5 is like, it is kind of fun. It is a fun game to play. You have these Merolians, who are the aliens who are dancing against you, and you're called Ulala, which is just a silly name.
Shoof, shoof. Okay, yeah, go on.
You're gonna have to keep going now, Nathan. I'm gonna hold you to that
please.
song.
Please more.
That's who we are. Poof, poof.
See, he's got it down with the hands. You do all these hand gestures and stuff like this, but actually, I think it's difficult to recommend this game. Nathan, you've had maybe even more contact time with Ulala than I have. How would you explain this game to people, and would you recommend it?
Well, it's a dancing game, first of all, and it's pretty fun. That's all I can say. That's it. No, but it's like this guilty pleasure kind of game, and there's this Sega vibe, if you enjoyed like Samba de Amigo and what is the other one? Parappa the
Parappa the Rapper.
That kind of stuff, and also Jet Set Radio. I don't know, yeah, it's kind of fun, and it has this Japanese vibe to it that, yeah, you can't get it anywhere else, so it's quite unique. Yeah, definitely play it on the best resolution for sure. It's more immersive that way. So no, but seriously, I thought it was an amazing game. But yeah, it's definitely priced in a. I think it's too expensive.
It's too expensive. Yeah, if it was a 10 or 15, I'd be okay with it. Like 10 or 15 bucks, I'd be like, okay, fair enough. Even if it's short, like you say, it's that unique like Japanese flavor and takes you back to the original console games. So that's the second one. That's a re-release.
Nice. Well, it's good news.
Yeah, I figured you might like that.
I was first so down after Medal of Honor, but my God, this game, it's finally coming to PC. This is it.
All right, that'll be Nathan's game of the year then. All right,
Yeah.
This next one's a real surprise. Okay, I'm going to move on to Ven VR. So this game, if you were to take kind of Crash Bandicoot, Jak and Daxter, Lucky's Tale, Astrobot, and smush them all together into a colorful world, you have Ven VR. Monolithic Games on the 17th of December are bringing this title to Oculus Rift. In Q1 and Q2, this will come to Quest 1 and Quest 2, and later it will go to other platforms, although no word yet. It's interesting. This one looks like it's going to drip feed all through next year. So let me tell you a little bit about it. So you enter the world of Ven. So Ven's the name, Ven VR is the name of the game, and Ven is the world. And thanks to VR technology, I was surprised at this audience, you can look around in every direction, lean forward, get closer for detail, and experience an immersive platformer. You get to team up and work closely and use everything you can to save this world. It's a world of magic. It's a platformer. It's a platformer. It's very colorful. You're going to have to see the trailer for this one to really buy it. Buy into the concept. It obviously plays with scale, and I think one of the features that we're going to mention as well is if you're buying it now for Rift, it is going to be cross-buy for Quest 1 and Quest 2. So don't hesitate if you're a multi-headset user to kind of go after this one. This one's come out of nowhere for me. I was not expecting this. It looks quite well developed. I don't know Monolithic Games very well. I wondered if you guys...
I've seen them. They were promoting this a lot on Facebook in like groups, but I haven't played it. I am a big fan of third-person platformers, so I definitely want to give it a try. I don't know if I want to give it a try now on PC. I might just want to wait until it's out on Quest. I do think the name is not that, like, it doesn't really match the how good this game looks.
Yeah, Ven VR sounds like an indie title.
VR, like adding VR to everything is already kind of, I don't know, it's not my jam. But Van is, I don't know. It's a bit.
So I played this actually,
beta.
part of the Rain Dance Film Festival. This was one of the nominees.
Okay.
So I got to play all the games that were nominated, and this was one of them. I got to play like 2 levels from it, and I think it is very promising. Definitely has that kind of Lucky's Tale, Astrobot vibes, and as you know, like Astrobot is like one of my favorite VR games of all time. So like I was pretty happy with it. It doesn't quite have the polish of Astrobot, of course, because Sony pumping all that money into that game, but it's definitely got potential. I'm looking forward to playing it when it fully releases, and I'm interested to see like the graphical hit it takes getting over to Quest, because it's quite a detailed game on PC. It looks very nice, it looks very pretty and polished. So yeah, I would say it's one to keep an eye on for
That's
sure.
Good.
Have it on your radar.
Appreciate that. Yeah. So I mean, if you're a fan of Moss or any of those other kind of titles,
yeah, of course.
I'm trying to remember the one that Nathan always plugs as well. The 2-hour Antarctica experience. Edge of Nowhere.
Edge of Nowhere.
Yeah. So all these third-person games. Chronos, I'll give a shout out to as well, because that's another game that if you want 40 hours of game in a third-person setting, it can actually surprise you. You're probably going to think, third-person in VR is going to be lame. It's actually pretty good. And decent titles. So,
by the way, if you're interested in knowing who won the Rain Dance Film Festival VR award, it was The Devouring for best VR game.
Oh, thank God! Yeah, excellent. Wow. Lakuza and all them, great job. Devouring was that horror experience we did in VR chat together, where
and it's free.
Yeah, you got to play it all in one go, and it took us what? How many hours?
4 5 hours.
5 hours, something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal.
And that was with some help.
But great. Yeah.
It was awesome. I can't wait to see more from them. Okay. Couple of quick mentions here before we exit. 4 things. So last week I didn't mention, and I won't go into too much detail here, but there's a title for Warhammer fans called Warhammer 40K Battle Sister. That landed on December 8th. Playing the beta, I got really uninspired to kind of revisit this thing. I know a few of you in chat have said, actually, it's a lot better. They've revisited some of the mechanics and that. I found it to be really odd. And what I'm seeing kind of consistently in the reviews is, if you're a Warhammer fan, and I know there are a bunch of geeks and girls and guys out there who might be in our audience, you at least deserve to know about this one. So Warhammer 40K, there's a game for you if you want. It's a first-person experience, and you play with a bunch of kind of interesting weapons. I felt like the visuals were almost felt like 90s, quite lo-fi. But then again, it's running for you there on your Quest. So
I think for me, when I think of Warhammer, I would probably have preferred like a tabletop VR game. I think that would have been way more interesting. Having like a big, like a bit like Brass Tactics, that kind of social thing where you can see your teammates and then play together. I would have really enjoyed something like that, I think, and then maybe even like mixed a bit of like that car building game. So maybe you get some models and you can like hand paint them in VR. I think that would have been a really interesting concept as well.
Building
these models. Yeah, like Wrench. So you've got like a box. You open the box. You got the models all there in bits. You assemble it. You paint it, and then you play it on the tabletop with your friend. That would have been a way better Warhammer game, in my opinion.
Wow. They should hire us as just giving us these free IDs or pay us.
I need to start patenting these.
1 million an hour.
Down.
All right, 3 more because I know people want to get out of here.
Sure, sorry.
This one's quick. So Frostpoint VR, which previously had landed on Steam. This is the 10v10. I have a little bit of an update to mention on this one because having jumped into
German
Farpoint
anymore. It's
not in German anymore. They got past that launch bug, which was hilarious.
Nice.
I love Germany's been at the center of our attention for the last week.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Yeah.
This is a 10v10. It was completely empty. You couldn't even get into a game middle of last week on the Steam build. It was that empty. It was hard because it's like this game has only just launched and it needs people like anything else. But it has now come to the Oculus platform. There are some reviews bubbling up. People are playing the game. So that's interesting. And that's kind of all I wanted to say about Frostpoint, because if you were interested in it all, it's kind of a very quick little oasis that seems to be very quickly either going to dry up or find an audience. The one thing is they're running a crazy campaign at the moment to kind of up the game, I guess. They're trying to, like the top 5 players over the next 3 weeks leading up to Christmas are going to get a 3080 and all this stuff. They're throwing money at it to try and keep it alive. If you want, I think the thing I'm going to say there is, if you're desperate for hardware or a Quest 2, one of the other packages, look up their thing, go check their Discord. It starts on the 14th. They've got this little thing running. It'd be worth your while to check it out because it might be an easy way to go blog yourself some hardware I've seen this before where developers throw money at a situation and like.
You're saying exactly what they want people to do, but yeah, no, I understand. Like,
but say how many people are going to do it though? Because you have to have a copy of the game.
Listen, you spend money on this game, and then it's like if you, let's say, already have that card, doesn't matter. Then you sell it, and then you make like you get rich of playing like a game for just a few dollars.
Yeah, it's a tactic that doesn't usually work
like
to draw up support.
It's like a casino kind of style.
It's a casino effect,
but
exactly.
Honestly, marketing-wise, you can say whatever you want, but they did some marketing.
Yeah.
And it was everywhere. It was everywhere. Seriously, like I saw these content creators play it. I saw it on Twitter. I saw it on. So there was no hiding from this game for sure. And now with this new like event, it's not bad, man. I think it's very creative.
That's coming from a bigger studio, you know. So that's going to be an interesting one. Next, and this is the one that I'm probably most excited about this week, is the Star Wars Squadrons update, which landed on the 11th of December. This is a free update to Star Wars Squadrons. You've got new starfighters. You've now got private custom matches, so you can actually get together 2 new ships, and you have a new level to bite your teeth into, which is Foster Haven. So looks quite exciting. If you've been away from Squadrons for some time, I was in it a week or 2 ago. It's performing a lot better now than it did on launch, so it absolutely has had a bit of a polish. There are some new weapon upgrades and stuff like that. So if you're interested, you know, in Squadrons and your HOTAS has been gathering dust, don't go for Project Wingman. I would say go back into Squadrons, have some fun there because and it's a good game.
Get yourself a Baby Yoda dashboard wiggly figure.
Do they have that now, or just normal Yoda?
Yeah. No, like the child Grogu is now a little bobblehead that you can have on your dashboard.
Did not know that. Excellent. Well, if you're a fan of the new series, then jump on in there. Last update, and this is one that's just far-reaching because I feel like people need to get a heads up to this happening in case you need to go buy hardware to be able to run this feckin' thing. On the 23rd of December, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 is getting its VR patch, finally. So please, connect up 400 PlayStation 4s or whatever you need to do to run this thing. We do expect it to be quite intensive on the old CPU and GPU and probably RAM to boot. It looks great. I'm really hopeful for the VR support, and let's see where it goes. The thing's had a few updates. If you want the Ultimate Edition of Microsoft Flight Simulator, it'll set you back like £120 at the moment. With more content releases coming next year. One of the things that's coming, which I find quite interesting, especially because if you're used to flying planes, they're bringing out helicopters in Q1, which is going to be a pretty nifty update. That's going to be a paid update. This one is free. That's going to be a paid update.
One more thing before we go. The Game Awards happened this week. There wasn't that much VR, sadly, but they did have a category for VR. And Half-Life Alyx was Game of the Year in the VR section. I think it was competing with definitely
only because Medal of Honor wasn't released yet.
No, that wasn't in there. No, that wasn't in there. But The Walking Dead: Saints and Sinners was in there, and a few others. But I think it's amazing that they at least had a VR category this time. Because, funny enough, Half-Life Alyx wasn't in the category of Best Game of the Year. So,
Interesting. I think what we're going to do next week on next week's show is have a bit of a roundup of the year. So each of us will choose a game that we've, really enjoyed, our highlight of the year, and we'll kind of have a roundup show of the year, summarizing everything that's happened, the sort of highlights. So we'll obviously be back next week. Just a reminder, this is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show, live streamed every Saturday on YouTube and Twitch. The show goes live at 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK, and 10 a.m. Pacific time. Also check out the audio version, which is available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and on Spotify. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the stream, and subscribe to the channel for all our future podcasts. Just a reminder again.
Yeah. There you go.
That we've got a Christmas party next week.
Yes.
After the show at 9 p.m. UK time, 10 p.m. Europe, 1 p.m. Pacific time, where we're going to just celebrate the Christmas spirit in VR and hang out with some of you. It will be a lot of fun.
Celebrate the great year of 2020.
So download Alt Space on your Quest and your PC VR headsets and join us next week for our Christmas party. We'll make sure there's links in the description down below.
Set up your account early because there are some account setup steps.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us on this week's show. Have a great week in VR, and until next week, take care of yourself, and bye-bye for now. See you later.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.